Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big-timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest fuss-gag hits. Chuck Muncie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Al. And of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Because we're adding a little something to this month's sales contest. As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired.
Well, I'm not fired. I'm not fired.
I feel responsible.
Welcome into the sports bar. We start the show with some heavy hearts. Actually, that's not accurate. I'm disappointed, but I have a new refound vigor. I have new motivation. My chili came in second place. The company chili cook-off. I got steak knives. Steak knives.
The process should be blind. When you put somebody's name on said product,
this doesn't make me feel any better, because if my name is on it and everybody knows it's me, I still didn't win. If it's a popularity contest, I still didn't win.
You're never going to be as popular as the top sales guy.
Oh,
everybody
come
loves
on.
Jimmy.
Everybody knows his wife made the dish that won the chili cook-off, and it wasn't even a chili. It's the crock pot bake-off, whatever they're calling it.
So I got to confess something too. Like, we all got to vote today, but it wasn't just place a vote. We got 3 tickets.
Yep.
3 tickets.
Yep.
And I'm thinking I'm going to do my guy a solid. I'm going to put all 3 in for Danger.
Whoa.
Okay.
I didn't know you could do that.
Well,
Is that frowned upon?
we were talking about it right within your earshot there, and our general manager came over and said, no, we really shouldn't do that. So I'm walking through the line,
Damn
and I'm
her.
like, "Oh gosh, I've got the angel
Foiled
and the
again.
devil on my shoulders." So I gave you 2 votes, and I gave Frank, one of our sales guys,
Yep.
he did the meatballs.
Yep.
Which that's not even chili.
No.
But I gave him a vote. It was good,
wasn't a
but-
chili cook-off. It was more like a crock pot cook-off.
Yeah.
So, but I will say, of everybody that brought in a chili, my chili came in first. There were a couple of other chilies, and, as soon as I see beans in the chili, I'm out. I'm not even going to try it, so you're not getting my vote. Sorry, Breezy. Sorry, Rich. Your chilies, I'm sure, are delicious, but you put beans in them, I'm out. I can't do it.
What did they give you for second? Did they give you the
It's
steakness?
right behind you. You see that? Isn't that nice for who was on the video? Let's see. Can you see it on the video stream?
That's it.
Yeah, you can see it. There it is. It's a wooden spoon award. It says second prize on it. And I thought I'd bring it into the sports bar just as like a daily motivation. Just, a reminder. A reminder that there's always work to be done. Man, I thought I had it. High praise. High praise from everybody who tried it.
I loved it.
You,
I'm not blowing smoke up yet. I mean, I
brought
really
some
thought it
in
was
for the Dandalorian.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of the Dandalorian, and this is a deep Star Wars pull, so I'm going to nerd out for a second if you'll allow me to. Nerd! What I love about my Instapot is it kind of looks like the thing that they carry the Beskar armor in The Mandalorian. This thing, I could walk around with this thing all day and feel like a badass, just because it's got heft. It's got like this locking lid, so I can kind of carry it around. And it had the chili in it all day, and I was carrying it around like it was really, really valuable.
That looks like it should be carrying plutonium, and you're ready to put the thing in the car for the 1.21 gigawatts.
Yeah,
That's really what it looks like.
Yes.
It looks that valuable.
Yes. Dan gave it a 9.2. Dan DeLorean gave it a 9.2. I'll take that. High praise from Derek the Pizza Dude. High praise from the guy who won the whole thing. Jimmy said your chili was amazing. He wanted to know how I made it. What wood did I use to smoke it? Everything like, all good. All good. So happy, not satisfied, I guess is where I'm at right now. A little disappointed. Never liked second prize. Second prize is a set of steak knives.
Who did Sandy vote for? Did she vote for you?
She gave me a vote. And by the way,
all three though.
I voted for Jimmy as well. So maybe my vote was the one that tipped the scales. I'm a good sport that way, and I did enjoy his wife's. I'm not going to say his wife's crock-pot concoction. It was like a blue cheeseburger dip served on like these little French bread crostinis.
Well, there's also a flaw in the system, and it's this. We don't have 2 hours to sit around and eat and eat and eat. Who really tried everything?
I tried almost everything. Like I said, I didn't touch anything with beans, but the things to vote on, Pizza Dude's pulled chicken got a vote for me. It was pretty good.
That was good, yeah.
Pretty good. Like a barbecue sauce that went with the pulled chicken. That was good. There was a couple of different pulled porks. You mentioned Frank's Meatballs. That got one of my votes as well. It was fun. It was good. Couldn't try everything because, like I said, I'm not going to touch anything that has those disgusting little dirt pockets in it. Beans. Ugh. So I'm. It's going to be a struggle today, and on top of it, I mean, we did eat like kings, and then, our location, our friends at Three Heads, our gracious host for our crock-pot cook-off today, and the entire Odyssey staff is there, and maybe I had a couple of IPAs, maybe just a couple.
You were surprised. I had two.
I couldn't
today.
believe you had two.
I had this skunk IPA, which was delicious, and then I had the Common Man, which is only like 4.5%. I'm like, this is perfect. That'll be balanced.
Oh, Pilsner, right?
Yeah. It was perfect.
Yeah. I went with a couple of Leaping Hazies.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
A couple of Leaping Hazies, and I'm in a good place. Not going to lie, I needed them after receiving second place. I'm like, ugh, effing steak knives. And everybody heard me say it, too. As soon as they said second prize, Mike Danger, I go, steak knives. Steak knives.
Because we're adding a little something to this month's sales contest. As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired.
Well, I can go home and cut the hell out of my brisket that's left over that I didn't use in the chili. I guess there's the silver lining with my second prize. Maybe I can use that wooden spoon to stir up another batch of chili for next year's competition.
You've been here before. Your Bears losing to the Colts in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Deidre, I'm old enough to know what this feels like. And for any Bills fan, if you get to the promised land and you think 13 seconds was the worst, guess what? It's not. It's not. So I can kind of sympathize. Second place, you'd rather not make the play. You'd rather not place at all. Is that how you feel?
At that point, it's like, why did I even try? Well, F me for trying. But it was fun. It was fun seeing everybody. Saw a lot of people I haven't seen in a while, with this whole work remote thing that has happened since the pandemic. You see faces that you haven't seen in a while, and it's fun watching people grow and watching people advance their lives when you haven't seen them in a handful of months. We've got a great show lined up for you this afternoon, by the way. We welcome you into the Sports Bar, and we thank you for checking us out, not just locally at 95.7 FM and AM 950, but also on the free-to-download Odyssey app where we sound our best, or your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We've got our stream up. You can watch the Sports Bar, as we mentioned, on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, on Twitch. Like and subscribe while you're there. Put a little wind in the sails. We will talk Major League Baseball later this afternoon with our good friend Jim Riley of the Barreled Up podcast in the Odyssey app.
Yeah, so this time next week, we are in full swing with the wild card rounds, looking ahead to the divisional. But, before we get to that, did baseball fumble this by not moving things up in Atlanta, forcing the Mets and the Braves to play a doubleheader coming up on Monday, where my head will essentially explode on Monday? Also, coming up at 3:45 today, Danger. So Jim Riley's in the 4 o'clock hour. We're going to react to this in real time. The final game for the A's in Oakland taking place this afternoon. It is a sellout. We can get to this in a little bit, but I'm watching last night the video of the last game in Montreal for the Expos. I'm thinking, okay, kind of give me a baseline. What is this like when a franchise is ripped away from a city, and how are the fans going to react? And, well, there's 30 years in between these two stories. So that's number one.
A lot has changed.
A lot has changed. 25 years, I should say. But everybody in Montreal, you had Frank Robinson, the players, everybody, you be the mascot. Like, everybody's waving goodbye, and there's tears and everything else. And I don't know if we're going to get that civil sort of feeling today in Oakland.
Yeah, I think to myself, I mean, I've got a lot of thoughts on the A's, and I think about where we were then versus where we are now. And I know that these situations aren't apples to apples because Montreal was kind of a ship at sea, right?
They did not have an owner, right? Their owner it was actually John Henry, and then he morphed over to the Red Sox, and then nobody stepped up. So from that standpoint, who was the villain in all this? They kind of looked at themselves.
And I guess in this instance, you do have a clear-cut villain in John Fisher. Now, we jokingly call these billionaire owners aliens, that they're just completely out of touch. They have wealth beyond anything we can comprehend, and they live a lifestyle unlike anything we can imagine. And there's a part of me that is jealous of that and wants to work hard to get a fraction of what these billionaires have in terms of the way they are able to live their lives. Not all billionaires, not all aliens, I think, are created equal. I think there are some that are truly evil and greedy and terrible. And I think there are some that they can use their wealth and they can use their power for good, and they can give back to the communities that they serve. And they can look in the mirror and say, you know what, how much is enough? When is it enough? Or when will I have enough for not just me, but generations to come? I think we'll be okay. Let me give back to the community. John Fisher is the former, not the latter. He's a bad guy.
The thing that's puzzling about this, and I'll compare it to Montreal. Nobody stepped up in Montreal. Not only would you buy the team, but really you had to build a stadium. Not going to happen. You are talking about not just one of the wealthiest places in the country, like one of in the world. You right down the road, you have Silicon Valley. You have people that would step up, but this guy holding on to the team, and the fact that Rob Manfred couldn't elbow, nudge, do whatever you need to do. You're leaving one of the top 5 markets, essentially, in the Bay Area for Vegas, like a TV market where the stadium, there's a plan, but the financing right now isn't even complete.
So I'll just go ahead and riff on what we're talking about. I was going to save it for later this hour, but I think that the A's fan base, the fans that will be there at the sold-out Coliseum, I think that they might be the grittiest and real fan base in the major leagues. They're symbolic of their city. They're hardworking. It's a diverse city. They're blue-collar fans. Their team has symbolized their community. The fans were always aligned with the guys on the field. And you have an owner here who's going to tell you that he's done all that he can to keep this team in Oakland, when really he's done nothing to keep the team in Oakland. They don't spend. They don't work with the city. It's just another example of alien behavior from a billionaire owner. John Fisher doesn't care about the product on the field. He hasn't for a long time. Or the fans in the stands. He's only looking out for himself. Now, what you'll have in Sacramento and eventually in Las Vegas is an unwatchable product in an environment that's impossible to enjoy baseball in. Have you ever been to Sacramento or Vegas in the summer? Don't go. Don't go. It's unlivable. Vegas is a city built on events. NFL football and even NHL hockey are events. Baseball isn't that. Casinos will end up giving customers tickets. There's never going to be real fans at a Vegas baseball game. Moving to Vegas means you're going to be competing with Blue Man Group and Cirque du Soleil. This guy deserves what's coming his way, Fisher. He deserves a total catastrophe with no one coming out to see his games.
I want to start here with the interim plan, because there are some people, Danger, that are saying, well, I worked in Buffalo. You can go play in Sacramento. Timeout. Okay. Buffalo was out of necessity. Okay. There
were pandemic.
There weren't many great options at that point. And even so, was it Buffalo full time? No. You were in Florida there for April and part of May. Because why? It's not real fun to be up here outdoors in April. Let's be honest, okay? So they made the best of a bad situation. This is not the same thing. You're going to go play in 100-degree heat. What's interesting also about this, the Players Association hasn't signed off on Sacramento yet. Like, can you imagine?
I can't imagine them doing it. I know how much of a struggle it was and how many mountains had to be moved for them to agree to Buffalo, and that wasn't ideal. I don't think the players loved playing in Buffalo. It was makeshift.
It was makeshift, but I think everybody kind of understood this is what has to happen.
Right.
You mean to tell me this is the best option here? Especially since the Coliseum has new owners and they say, hey, why don't we just kind of stay here for 3 years while we figure this out? Nope, we're leaving.
He's the worst.
Now, there's also there's this other thing too, Danger, because what do we say all the time? There's money in the stadium, but really in baseball, it's the local TV that drives everything. Look at the Yankees and or the Mets and SNY, Red Sox and Nesson, even your Cubs and Marquee.
Mm-hmm.
There's no TV deal in Sacramento. Like, what, are you just going to stream them, or what are we doing?
Yeah, it's been ill-conceived from the very beginning. It's infuriating, really. It's born out of greed, and while there are billionaires out there who I think will do right by the communities that they're in and that they're a part of, this guy ain't one of them. You know, this guy is out for himself, only thinking about himself. It's the worst kind of greed, and the fans are the ones that are going to suffer. And really, honestly, this guy never cared about the fans or the product on the field in the first place. So he's going to get what he deserves, which is an unwatchable product in an environment that's impossible to enjoy watching baseball. Whether you're talking about Sacramento or Vegas, good luck with that. Good luck with that. That's what he's got coming his way. I'm excited to get Jim Riley on. We'll talk not just the A's, but we'll also get a little preview here of the postseason. Talk about that doubleheader that could decide the final wild card.
All baseball talk will be in the 4 o'clock hour today. We're not going to talk baseball with Dan Fates. Watch, he's going to bring it up.
No,
he brought it up last week. I'm not the one who said.
I'm gonna do my part as a driver of this show to try and steer him away from talking about baseball. For you, we're going to solely focus on Bills-Ravens. Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports, BuffaloPlus.com, stopping by here in just a couple few. As far as Bills news, I mean, what do we have? We have a backup offensive lineman going to IR. We've got a call-up from the practice squad.
We have Terrell Bernard at practice today in the red non-contact. Now, Sean McDermott has already ruled Bernard out, as well as Taron Johnson for the Sunday night game in Baltimore. But, heck, that's encouraging. If, you're at least you're getting Bernard out there now, getting some work in, I think it puts him in play for the Houston game. But I think what everybody is concerned about is, if the Ravens want to do what they want to do, they want to run the ball with Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry's had success against the Buffalo Bills. And, oh, by the way, that issue that's causing the Mets and Braves to kind of be delayed, the remnants of that could be in Baltimore on Sunday night, which, if it's a run-first game, how does this impact everything?
Elements are in play. Yeah, a little bit of color on the Taron Johnson injury as well. That it's actually like a broken forearm. Like he broke his forearm early in week 1, and it's like a 4 to 6 week injury. But he's hoping that he can be back as well. So maybe getting a little bit healthier on the injury front, but certainly not in time for Sunday night. And we will see what this game looks like with the Ravens, especially if there's some elements in play. We already know that the Ravens like to run the football. It might be the only thing that you're able to do if the weather is what we think it might be on Sunday night.
Or maybe it's nothing. I seem to recall maybe this was the last time they were down in Baltimore. Whatever it was cleared out in time. So that could be it too.
Yeah. Dan Fates stopping by in a little bit. You can pull up a stool and join us anytime this afternoon. 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326 is our phone number. We're also on Elon's Twitter. That's X at the Fan Rochester. You can engage with us there as well. Let's take a break. Dan Fates joining us next. We'll talk more Bills and Ravens on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening.
Linebacker Terrell Bernard at practice today in a red non-contact jersey. Head coach Sean McDermott already ruling out Bernard and Taron Johnson for the game Sunday night in Baltimore. Von Miller, he's trying to keep everything low-key.
They have a really tough offense, and what we've been doing here with the Buffalo Bills is just keeping it simple and just playing our game. Just going in and playing football, keeping it simple, keeping the expectations down, and just playing our game. And that's been working for us, and that's the type of mindset that we're bringing to this game as well.
Bills roster move today. Offensive lineman Will Clapp goes up to the 53-man roster. Tyron Gabriel goes on IR. Wide receiver Amari Brown, he's been signed to the practice squad. We'll talk to 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus's Dan Bates coming up next year in the Sports Bar. Major League scoreboard, Brewers leading the Pirates 5-2. They're in the ninth. It's the Yankees and Orioles tonight in the Bronx. Gene Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, time for our weekly check-in with 13 Wham Sports and BuffaloPlus.com's Dan Fates. The latest on the Buffalo Bills, the latest on the Bills and the Ravens. Dan, we're gonna have a football conversation this afternoon as we get ready for Sunday Night Football with the Bills and the Ravens. And the Bills, once again, great vibes around this team. I don't know that they're the best team in the NFL, Dan, but they sure feel like they have the best vibes right now in the NFL.
Yeah, I think they've capitalized on the fact that, I joked around about it after the game. It's really unfortunate that their championship window closed during this offseason because they would seem like real contenders if, the national media hadn't closed the window on them winning a Super Bowl. Besides that, they've been playing phenomenal. Everything is working well. I'm still not sure if they've played anybody good, but they have beaten bad teams like you're supposed to beat them if you are a good team.
Dan, we've been saying all along, if Josh Allen plays at an MVP level, who knows how far this team may go. And I'm going to ask you the question this way. The week 1 hand injury, although that hasn't prevented him, but has that caused Josh Allen to play smarter here in the last 2 games?
No, I think it's more of the maturity just of year 7 and things like that. We were talking to him before this last game about what his preparation has been like, what's changed over the years and things like that. And he kind of said, I'm now seeing the same thing. Teams seem to play us a similar way. Even though they may be a team that does X, we're always seeing Y. And now he has the answers to Y, meaning he even kind of said, I've really kind of seen every way they've played me. And he kind of laughed. He's like, now, so of course, some team will do something differently and make me look silly. He goes, but he just looks like a guy that for the longest time, paired with Joe Brady, right now seems like a guy that has all the answers to the test. And when the ball is snapped and you're that athletic, that's a dangerous combination to be. And it's got to be a very empowering conversation and, empowering feeling that Josh has had, that maybe no pressure of getting the ball to one guy or another and just kind of reading the defenses. I remember talking to Dan Orlovsky this offseason, and it was just the fact of Josh can make every throw. Will he do the boring things? Will he be the elite level point guard and not have to be the superstar that has to feel like he has to score every basket himself? And kind of that basketball analogy. And what we've seen so far is just a calm, composed Josh Allen, which is, very dangerous for the rest of the NFL.
Talk about how everybody eats in this offense, and it's kind of been the way it's been with Joe Brady calling the plays and Josh bringing it up in the press conference, of course, forces people to think that he's taking shots at Stephon Diggs, which I think is kind of ridiculous. But I don't know that everything is roses behind the scenes, and I'm wondering if you have any insight as to what led to Keon Coleman getting benched at the start of the game on Monday night. I mean, obviously comes in, contributes right away, and all is forgotten. But is there any concern there? Does it feel like because he kind of learned his lesson that he'll be riding on the straight and narrow moving forward?
Yeah, 2 things. One, I do think Josh takes subtle jabs. I think he's incredibly savvy with the media. What he says is very calculated. We've joked around about it. It's almost like he tells the people, like, how many cliches can I get in about a certain team or a certain player. He has referenced multiple times over the last 4 or 5 days that Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP winner. Like, I don't think that's an accident. I don't think it's an accident when he says nobody cares about stats. I'm not saying that's a direct shot from Stephon Diggs, and obviously he would vehemently denied that yesterday. I don't think it's a direct shot, but I think he does like to take little jabs and have fun with the media and say things with a little bit of an undertone. So that I'll say that. As far as Keon Coleman, I was asked this somewhere else about, do I think this is a bigger deal? I really don't. We haven't heard anything else that's rumbling under the surface that Keon is unprofessional. We've heard exactly the opposite. The fact that a guy like Mac Hollins, when you go out to practice and you see him, like, if somebody lets up, they're running routes and they catch a pass and they're going towards the end zone and they let up, like, Mac screams at them to finish, like, run all the way to the end zone. Like, it's the little things. Like, they have guys that hold them accountable. And I also think that it's a message to the rest of the team of, this is our first overall pick or first round pick, but that we're all held to accountable, and it's that standard. So Keon kind of said it, unfortunately he's used as the example maybe, but tardiness and these little things, set an example. I also think it's a great idea or great response that he didn't pout on the sidelines, that he didn't, run routes at half speed when he got in the game and then say, well, I wasn't in the game in the first quarter. He went out and caught a touchdown. Like, that makes everything all better. And everything now feels like water under the bridge. I don't think this is some lingering issue.
Dan, I agree with you. I think that Josh Allen is smart enough to know whatever he's saying out there. He's calculated. And here's the question, because this is going to be more of next week's storyline, but you get asked this a lot. We hear things to a certain degree. What insight can you share with us? Just how bad, if at all bad, was it with Diggs in that locker room last year?
I don't think it was as bad as people let out to believe. It's a little bit, I think, now of your ex-girlfriend or your ex-boyfriend, right? Somebody says, when they're there, you're like, they're the best. It's amazing. I've never had so much fun before in my life. And then when something happens, you're like, I never really loved them. It wasn't that great anyway. None of this was fun. Like, I think that's part of what happens. That's being a fan. I totally understand that. And I think I've said it on here before. Sometimes I think players have an expiration date. I think coaches can have expiration dates where everything's fine and all things are dandy. And then eventually it's not that it's, look, I still think Stephon Diggs is a hell of a football player. I think he's still going to have a great year in Houston. He's off to a solid start. Houston's going to win games. The Bills are going to win games. But I think they just needed something fresh. I think Deion Dawkins, has provided the most insight from this, just about how much he misses Stephon Diggs and that they lost a dog and a guy. And like I said, it's all great when the dog's barking and you're like, oh, it's a cute dog. It's new. It fires us up. And then eventually the dog keeps barking and you're like, dude, come on. Like, we got to move on from this dog. Like little things like that. I don't think it was one of those things. It was probably a matter of time, and maybe Stephon Diggs in 2 years or whenever on his next team he wears out his welcome. I don't think it was as bad as people got. I think the team wasn't very good talent-wise the last few years, and it kind of fizzled out maybe at the end. And again, the Bills found ways to win without Stephon Diggs. They're finding ways to win now without Stephon Diggs. So it is a storyline. I love when people are like, it's not a story. It's a massive story. And it's not just, and it will be the first time the Bills offense and this everybody eats mantra gets shut down. And they'll go, well, they don't have a number one guy. Remember, Stephon Diggs was a true number one. Like, this is going to keep happening. So next week it'll get ramped up. Everybody eats is a great kumbaya saying when you're 3-0 and everybody's going well and everything's fine and dandy. They will hit a speed bump at some point and need to adjust. But for right now, everything's fine.
Dan, we'll have another week of no Terrell Bernard, no Taron Johnson. And for as great as the guys have played, whether you're talking about Spector or Ingram or certainly Cam Lewis, again, this opponent is a tough one this weekend, and it's Derrick Henry, and I'm nervous about Henry's size and physicality against the Bills' defense, especially if there's elements in play and the run game is really the only path to any sort of yardage on Sunday. What's your level of concern knowing that there are still some injuries on the defensive side of the ball? Or should we just be past it and be like, no, these guys came up in the system, they know the system, and it doesn't really matter that they don't have the size of a Derrick Henry?
Yeah, my heart and my brain are telling me two different things heading into this week, and Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and what they can do and the problems they possess to opposing defenses really does definitely have me worried this week. Balen Spector's been great. I do think that the Jags are a really bad football team right now. I think the Dolphins had a flawed game plan that the Bills were able to take them out of, things like that. This could be the first game where we start to see, like, man, it'd be really nice to have Taron Johnson in this game. Man, it'd be really nice. I'd feel a lot differently about this game if Terrell Bernard was in there. That's my worry. We've seen what Derrick Henry can do. And if I was up until last game, really, I mean, again, it's hard to really judge to some respect. They've been so dominant that I remember, like, halfway through the Miami game, I'm like, man, they can't stop the run. If the Dolphins just keep running it down their throats, like, this could be an issue. With no Terrell Bernard and these kind of things. But the last, 6 quarters, they've been so dominant on every phase of the game, it's covered up some of their things. So if I do have a concern, it was, man, they kind of got gashed by Achane up the gut. And I kind of need to see a little bit more from Daquan Jones. And I kind of want to make sure that Ed Oliver and those guys can plug up gaps and stop the run, because the Jags were completely out of the game in no time. So Derrick Henry's a worry for me. Lamar Jackson in the open field is a big worry for me this week. This could be the first time where we go, man, hey, when are they coming back? Terrell Bernard, right? Like Houston. Like we these guys they weren't put on IR, so hopefully they'll be back soon, right?
13 Wham Buffalo Plus's Dan Fates, our guest here in the Sports Bar. What's helping out that defense, Dan, is what's up front. I mean, Greg Rousseau's been great, but the guy on the other side, Von Miller. Like, if you said back in June, hey, Von is going to do this through the first 3 games, you'd be like, oh, hey, sign me up.
Yeah.
But here's my concern. Like, it's the second half. The game has been decided.
100%.
You're Von Miller. You're out there with a pitch count. Then you realize, oh, wait a second. Yeah, he wants to get his money back here, and he gets a sack, and he's climbing the ladder. And, for folks who don't know, he gave a pay cut, but he can all earn it back with the number of sacks. Yep. So how do you manage this going forward? Because I'm sure Von wants to be out there to get the sack, but when you're going to really need Von Miller, it's not the second half of a blowout win over Jacksonville.
No, but it's funny because that crowd went nuts on that sack when they're up 27 points.
Yeah.
You would have thought the Bills were hanging on to a 1-point lead and Von gets the sack. Like, that is the vibe. And again, Von kind of got contained for the most part in that game. But why did the Bills sign him in the first place? Brandon Beane called him a closer. And that is what we have seen when Von is healthy. He does come up. And I will put air quotes around a big play, because that was a play where the Jags were driving and things like that. So part of that was where I still think Von still has that. He still has that 99-mile-per-hour fastball that he can paint on the black and win. And so those kind of things get me excited about the fact of, hey, I still think Von has the juice at his age and in his 14th NFL season. I don't know if you guys knew that. He's in his 14th NFL season. And the fact that he can still get to the quarterback when needed. Because I thought for the most of that game, he was kind of bottled up. I thought he looked really good in Miami, even when he wasn't getting the sacks. I thought he was creating pressure and creating kind of chaos on that offensive line. So I still think he's playing at a pretty high level. And it looks much closer to the 2021 Von than it does the 2023 Von.
Dan, when we're talking about the Bills' offense on Sunday night and their path to success against this Ravens D that's been pretty stout against the run, is it going to require Joe Brady to make an adjustment here and maybe skew a little bit more towards the passing game to exploit that league worst pass defense that the Ravens employ currently? Yeah,
you hope so. You hope obviously you game plan for opposing defenses and they've been able to adapt. I didn't think they ran the ball all that great against Jacksonville. They had a couple of runs. Cook almost busted one late in the third quarter. He had a big hole and kind of got tripped up. But they adapted. It was a bold strategy by the Jaguars to just not cover James Cook in the passing game. That was a bold strategy that Josh was able to adjust. And that's kind of what the good Patriots teams always did, right? Like, one game they'd run it down your throat. The next game Brady would throw for 300 yards. Like, that was what the good offenses, know what they do best, but can also, expose what the defenses doesn't do well. So I'd like to think I've got so much confidence in Joe Brady. I loved the hire, making him the full-time coach, OC during this offseason, giving him a full offseason. The pre-snap motion has just been so beautiful. It's been beautiful football. It brings me back to Brian Dable vibes. And that's allowed Sean to be more aggressive. And listen, it was a bad night for anybody that thinks Sean McDermott is not an aggressive head coach because he went for it on not one, but 2 fourth downs on the opening drive. But you can do that when you trust your play caller. I don't think he necessarily had that with the previous guy. He had it with Dable. They were aggressive with Dable. This is where McDermott doesn't get enough credit for being a really good head coach, feeling out a game. And going into this one, it is going to be a hostile environment. I don't know if you know this, John Harbaugh in primetime games at home, the Ravens are 20-3 since he took over. They are really, really good.
I had that ready for you.
Yeah, that was Dan Fade's 13 wham. Buffalo Plus, our guest here in the sports bar. Dan, I want to see Lamar Jackson try to test Christian Benford. I mean, is Benford not the best value on the team right now? And for me, it's kind of hard to evaluate because, well, it's not getting picked on. But that's because he's doing such a fine job.
Yeah.
But at some point, could it be as soon as next offseason we're talking about, locking down the Bills' corner here for the future?
Yeah, best value. You talk about whether it's Taron Johnson or Terrell Bernard or Christian Benford. All these guys, they have developed into star players. And I always think that I'll roll my eyes every single time, and I guess I'll be on the field on Sunday so I won't have to hear it, but I can already see it and hear it in my head where Chris Collinsworth will tell you that Lamar Jackson is a pocket passer. He will say that multiple times in the broadcast, and I always roll my eyes at it. He's not. And anytime, in my opinion, that Lamar throws the ball out of his hands, it's a win for the defense. Even the throw that he had to seal the game last week against Dallas, the out route, and everybody's like, oh, it was a great throw, great play call, all of those things. I still thought the pass was inside. I still think that ball should be on the outside and give your guy a chance to run. I know he's the MVP. I'm not taking away anything, but I still think the more dangerous Lamar is when he's in the open field running with the ball more than when he's dropping back to pass. So I feel great knowing that they have two of the most, maybe the best unknown corner duo in the National Football League right now with Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford, but they're also going to have to bring the physicality in the running game because I think that's where the Ravens are going to try and use that crowd, use the all-black jerseys to just kind of intimidate and just run downhill and really kind of impose their will like a Baltimore Ravens John Harbaugh team wants to do.
You want to talk about dangerous player. I'm starting to wonder if Khalil Shakir will have a drop at all this season. I mean, he's just a vacuum for targets, and he had another great game on Monday night. The NFL catches up to you. I'm wondering if it's going to catch up to what's gone on here between Allen and Shakir, because it feels like it's something pretty special.
Yeah, we've talked about it a bunch on the Buffalo Plus channel. And I know people want to call Khalil Shakir a number one wide receiver, and I've kind of fought back at that. We've seen this before when you put labels on guys that they just don't fit. That was the big thing for me with Gabe Davis. He was just never, to me, a true number 2 wide receiver and all these things. And Khalil is really good at what Khalil does. And I still will never see him having multiple 100-yard receiving games. That's not what he does. But he reads defenses incredibly well. He finds spots in zones really well. He knows how to beat man coverage. He just is, as they always say, a football player. And that's great. And maybe I'm coming around to the fact of he's not a true number 1 wide receiver in the sense of what we think a number 1 wide receiver is, but he's definitely Josh Allen's most trusted number 1 guy. There's no question about that. When they need a play, it's going to Khalil because of the dependability. And it's, you talk about quarterbacks in the past where it's whether it was Tom Brady or things like that. If you drop a ball, it's well, I'm not giving it back to you. There's a level of confidence that when Josh throws the ball to number 10, it's going to be caught and there's going to be yards after the catch, which has just been the greatest. And we asked Keon Coleman about it yesterday about are you guys surprised when you see a guy like Khalil, who isn't physically imposing and overly fast, have the ability of yards after the catch? And they said they joke around with him hey man, you could run around guys. but you just choose to run into other people and then just bounce off of them and keep running. They were like, you could make it easier on yourself and run around guys or try and juke somebody, but instead he just bounces off of them. So it's been fun to watch his growth. And again, a guy that just embodies Sean McDermott in a Buffalo Bills blue-collar way.
Dan, last one for me, and I'm sure Danger will ask you, for a pick here, but it could be a close game. Probably will be a close game, and it could come down to a kick. If it comes down to a kick, which fan base is gripping tighter? The Bills and Tyler Bass or Baltimore and Justin Tucker?
I'd still say it's probably the Bills. I think while Justin Tucker may be falling off the cliff more quickly than we all assumed, he still made a lot of big kicks in his career and things like that. Tyler Bass has made all of his he missed the extra point was blocked, whether it was a blocking assignment, things like that. I'd still, if I had to have one of the guys hit a 40-yarder, and who would I put my money on hitting it as time expired, I'd still probably lean Justin Tucker over Tyler Bass at this moment.
All right, Dan, Uncle Dan, if you don't mind. I mean, I don't want to create any spoilers, but do you have a lean on Sunday night?
Oh, guys, this is it. Like, I don't want to do it. Like, my heart says Bills just because of it, and then everything else kind of in my brain and looking at these things says Ravens. I think it's a 2-point, 1-point game coming out late. I think I have it as like 24-23 Ravens if I had to have a pick. I'm not going to bet the game. I'm going to stay away. I like Josh Allen's over passing yards. I like his over rushing yards. I like Khalil Shakir's over receiving yards, Kincaid's over receiving yards. Like, I like a lot more props. I think this game is just going to be incredibly tight. I can see it going both ways. So I'm not going to put money on it. We have to pick it for our show that we have every Thursday night, our live show on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. I'm, at this moment, painfully leaning towards the Ravens.
Dan Fates, 13 Wham, Buffalo Plus, pride of Webster, pride of Fredonia. It's been a pleasure talking football with you today, Dan.
Boy, the MLB is really stupid, isn't it?
Oh, here we go. Dan, I mean, I'm nervous about my co-host mental health. I don't know that you really want to bring this up this afternoon.
Dan, it's going to be tough on Monday. Monday, we're all going to be talking about whatever happens Sunday night.
You guys benefit from this. I don't understand why people don't understand that.
Oh, explain. How? Okay, so the Mets sitting around all day. They got to go up to Milwaukee. Then they got to fly back to Atlanta, take care of their business, presumably, and then go back to Milwaukee? How does this help?
But Milwaukee has nothing to play for. They've already clinched the division. And then you guys avoided Sale and Fried. What do you mean? And even if we try and shimmy them in somewhere, even if then we do get in, which I don't think we will, I've been saying that, we then wouldn't have them for the wild card round. Like,
well,
we
that's yeah, right.
Because this hurricane popped up out of nowhere. We had no idea this hurricane was coming.
Why wasn't there a doubleheader Monday, Dan? Why couldn't they have played at noon on Tuesday?
Why couldn't they have done Monday one game? You could have done maybe an early game Wednesday if you really wanted to get it in. Just completely botched. This wasn't a pop-up thunderstorm. This was a hurricane we knew coming for a week. Just unbelievable. And again, we set our whole rotation for that series. To have Schwellenbach, to have Sale, to have Fried. And you guys, thanks to Mother Nature, and hope everybody's safe. I hope everybody's safe. Everybody be safe, respect hurricanes. But you guys benefit from this immensely.
Oh, Dan, didn't you say on this very show last week, like, the season's over, I'm not watching baseball, I don't like baseball?
I'm not watching baseball. I haven't watched any of it.
Listen, let us have this one. Let us have this one, Dan.
I'm trying to give it to you.
Yeah, you could have won the other night. Let us have this one. Win the other night, and we're not having any conversation at all. You're feeling pretty good about yourself going into the weekend.
Baseball's so stupid.
Thanks for the time, buddy.
Thank you, Dan.
Always. Appreciate it, guys.
Talk to you next week. Dan Fates, 13 Wham Sports.
No, let's go Braves.
BuffaloPlus.com. He hit you with the Go Braves on his way out the door. Yeah, that's I mean, he's true to his word. Said he's not watching baseball. He's not a believer in this team.
Okay,
you got to be feeling pretty good, Gene.
The idea that Sale now will pitch against Kansas City instead of the Mets you get to Monday, it's one of those, okay, all hands on deck sort of things. And he's right. Whoever comes out of this, whether it's the Mets or Braves, they're going to be, okay. The Padres are like, yes, wringing their hands. Come over here. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
You're thinking about calling in Monday, aren't you?
No, Monday is going to be fantastic. I got to be here. I want to see you. I want to see you happy.
You understand that Dandelion will have the game on too, and he will be miserable. So, because the first game's at 1:00.
Mm-hmm.
So while on our station we will have Brownie and Tasker reacting to everything that happened in the Ravens-Bills game, and that's what we're going to talk about on our show. But in the studios, we're watching this, and if the Mets somehow lose, I'm going to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fun to be around. I just want to warn you.
I'm not afraid. And actually I feel like you're going to be happy. I feel like you're going to be okay. It doesn't feel like the Braves can make this happen. I don't have a lot of confidence.
Here's another ironic thing too, and maybe this escape fate. I have to rely on Binkley's team to help out.
Oh yeah,
the Royals.
Yeah.
Like anything Kansas City right now, I'm like, hey, can you beat the? Okay, yeah, beat the Braves. Yeah, good.
We'll go a little bit deeper into Major League Baseball here as the season winds down, and we look ahead to the postseason. Jim Riley of the Barreled Up podcast, the Odyssey exclusive. He's going to be stopping by in about a half an hour or so. We have time for your calls this afternoon. If you want to join us at 866-4326, we'd love to hear from you at 585-866-4FAN. And we have more on the way next, Gino, including a little bit of fantasy talk here, a little fantasy theory.
Yeah, this is like we haven't touched on this because this happened Monday, and then we react on Tuesday, and they're like, wait a second, somebody went to Germany? Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a big concern. So for this team, fantasy-wise, it's tough, but I'm wondering for this team overall, if this is kind of going to be their death knell.
We'll get into that and more next on The Fan, Rochester.
Streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Linebacker Terrell Bernard of the Buffalo Bills at practice today in a red non-contact jersey. That's a good sign, although, and Coach Sean McDermott has already ruled out Bernard and Taron Johnson for the game coming up against Baltimore on Sunday night. A.J. Epinosa knows the Bills' defense is going to be up against a tough one in Derrick Henry.
They're a team that definitely prides himself on physicality. Downhill running is definitely what he specializes in, and being physical and big, strong back like that. And so, it's definitely being stressed on just what he's capable of. But we're just, like I said, harping on our fundamentals of what we can do great to be able to stop him.
Roster moves today for Buffalo. Offensive lineman Will Clapp goes up to the 53. Tylen Grable goes on IR. Wide receiver Amarian Brown signed to the practice squad. Week 4 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's the Cowboys and Giants from the Meadowlands. Gene Battaglia and the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
I think this game comes down to the wire, and then Josh Allen and the Bills will probably make a comeback, and we'll see if that Ravens defense can hold on.
And I'll say the Ravens win it by literally a point, but I could see it going either way.
Mike Danger.
I'm really struggling in trying to come up with a prediction for Sunday night. Now, on one hand, the Bills look like at times they're the best team in the NFL, and I don't know that they are, but I can tell you that the vibes around the Buffalo Bills right now are the best in the NFL. And then the Ravens, nobody is taking Baltimore lightly going into this matchup on Sunday. How do you see this all playing out?
Gene Battaglia.
If the Bills lose this game, Danger, I would just say on the surface, there's no shame. The only way we're upset about this is if we see things that are uncharacteristic. But I think that this week, managing everybody's emotions here, it may not go your way, but I don't think there's going to be any shame in this loss.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I need to learn to be more gracious in defeat. If you're just joining us, we welcome you into the sports bar. I'm a little bitter. Took second prize in the crock pot cook-off for my Texas chili. And in the last hour, since we've been on the air, one of our breaks, I went out to get some water from the water cooler, and Shannon, who does an unbelievable job for us here at Odyssey Rochester and was kind of like the organizer of all this, I thanked her for all of her hard work today. And she's like, congratulations.
On what?
And I'm like,
congratulations on what?
And then the champ came in. I don't know if you saw Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy's helping out, bringing back everything.
Because he's all class.
Yeah.
And maybe I need to be better because this guy won the popularity contest. He took first place. He says his wife took first place. He took first place. And he's like, hey, man, chili was great. Congratulations. I'm like, I'm still kind of bitter. I'm a little bit bitter.
I would say next year we have to take the names off. And for that matter, you see somebody bringing in the crop back. You can even identify who the crop. We really need this as blind next year. That's what we really need.
You think people will remember that mine has the most kick on the block, that my chili has the most spice?
No, they won't remember any of this. No. People, this will fit. I will know, but we forget things, Danger. We move on to the next thing. Like, hey, there's no beans in that. Oh, that must be dangerous. No. People will forget that.
Well, I appreciate our regulars, the support from our regulars. Yacht Rock John, one of our favorites from Yacht Club, sending us an update on X. My company used to have a chili cook-off and holiday baking contest. For what it's worth, my chili and holiday treats always rated high, but I could never beat our HR director, much like the Bills, unable to get past Kansas City in the playoffs. I mean, I guess it's appropriate. Spent all this time talking about the Bills. I've kind of morphed into this team that can do a really good job of finishing second, but can't get over that hump.
Chris in Kentucky writing in. Danger, your co-host, Gene, pulled a Josh Allen soundbite by emphasizing talking football just to bait fates. He, meaning me, is an absolute misfit.
No.
I'm not a misfit. I have handled my emotions fairly well through this whole saga of the Mets trying to lock up a spot, which includes a loss in Atlanta, I understand, on Tuesday night. Chris, thank you for listening. I'm not a misfit.
Straight up calling you a misfit for baiting fates. Did you bait fates?
How did I? Well, I guess I did with that flowery
you
outro.
Did. This is great. I'm glad we had the chance to talk football, and you led right into him. Why would we want to talk baseball? Well, we will talk baseball later this hour. Our buddy Jim Riley
from the Barreled Up podcast stops by the sports bar here in about 20 minutes or so. You can hear the Barreled Up podcast, get everything Major League Baseball in the free-to-download Odyssey app.
Could we, tomorrow we'll talk to Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy, but I don't ever recall a first-round pick, a number one overall pick, a consensus number one overall pick just going up in flames. But this is what we may have here in fantasy football. If you haven't been following along, and listen, I don't blame you because this happened Monday evening. We're focused on the Bills. Tuesday, we're talking about the Bills. And wait a second. What is this? Christian McCaffrey's in Germany? What's going on here? Well, the injury is actually Achilles tendonitis. That's not an Achilles tear. That's something going on that, well, hard to put your finger on. And the fear is that McCaffrey now, there are whispers that he's actually going to miss the season. Head coach Kyle Shanahan ducked questions, repeatedly saying he has no comment, which, look, if he's coming back, he wouldn't duck the question, right? As talented as the Niners are, take CMC off that roster, Danger. That's a team that loses to the Vikings, to the Rams. It's a team that could fall out of the picture altogether when you couple in an Ayuk.
I guess. I mean, they do have, Ayuk is using the excuse of teams are playing me differently this year. I am of the opinion that Ayuk, for all of the offseason posturing, was never worth what he thought he was. I think Ayuk is a fine wide receiver, but he doesn't deserve to be in the same conversation as a Justin Jefferson, a CeeDee Lamb, a Jamar Chase. He's not that guy. CMC is special. We all know that. But they've done well with Jordan Mason in the run game. He's been fine. He can't do all the things that McCaffrey can do, but at this stage of McCaffrey's career, it's kind of become about preservation, right? Like, how can I be the most effective version of myself that I can be when I'm on the field? Because if I'm hampered in any way, I'm not going to look the way I'm supposed to look.
That's the one thing you can credit on him. Now, he's been banged up over the years, and last year was special because he played, with the exception of a couple games, I want to say. But more often than not, you draft McCaffrey. When he's out there, he's great. When he's hurt, okay, this is what you're signing up for. But there hasn't been that drop-off. He was always the guy, like all through the playoffs last year. And this came out of nowhere, and I'm wondering, like, were they not reporting on this in San Francisco? Were the Niners downplaying this? McCaffrey missing the season, perhaps? Now, again, this is all speculation, but I'm trying to wonder, like, what would be the reasons you go to Germany at this point? I remember Kobe Bryant doing this one time.
Yeah,
too.
It's like stem cell therapy or whatever, experimental treatment you can get over there that you can't get here. I get why he's doing it. Like, you want to show every effort possible that you want to get back on the field, and I'm sure he wants to get back on the field, and it's probably driving him nuts that he can't get back on the field. So what's going to work? Can I try this? Sure, try that. I have no idea what the therapy is or what exactly the benefits of what he's doing will lead to. I could say this. From a fantasy lens, from a fantasy perspective, my season, your season may not go exactly the way we want it to, but if you're anything like me and you had the opportunity to draft Christian McCaffrey and you passed, like I did, season feels like a win. Season, it won't be a win, but just knowing, like, he was there, I could have said yes, I'll take him. I didn't, and this is partially why. Like, I didn't know how the extent of his injury, but we've seen him break down before.
Well, if the Niners are going to get back to where they were, then the downside is you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy, because Brock Purdy is going to be all of a sudden have to kind of evolve. Yes, Mason's been fine, but he's not a running back you're game planning for. Let's be honest. It's not CMC. Danger, one quick note there, because you and I are girl dads. To all girl dads out there, Danger and I wish you a happy National Daughters Day.
Now, was it today or was it yesterday? Officially yesterday, right?
I am still seeing things today. Was it today or yesterday?
I feel like I started seeing things yesterday, and then late last night, I'm like, oh, National Daughters Day. Let me take a moment to share just how proud I am to be my daughter's dad. I love my girls.
Well, as my daughter has pointed out there's a bigger day to pay attention to. That's October the 6th.
Oh.
October 6th is National Transfer Your Money to Your Daughter Day. You heard that right. There is actually a Give Your Daughter Money Day. You can look this up. Who came up with this idea? Some freeloader, some financial planner that wants to take a commission. It is a day devoted to daughters getting some extra pocket money from their parents. Okay, Allie, you're going to get the water bottles I took from training camp. You can go redeem them.
Oh, yeah. All the ones that I didn't crush?
Yeah.
I hate that. I really, really hate National Transfer Money to Your Daughter Day. I think
your daughters haven't brought this up to you.
I think that sends such a horrible, horrible message. Like, don't worry, sweetheart. It's a tough world out there, but we'll bail you out if you need to. No, you're a woman. You're a young woman. You're a girl. You can go out there and do it. You can go out there and kill like any of us. Go get it. Go earn it. Go get it.
The thing I miss, one of them, when my daughter was in Girl Scouts, brownies, before that. And it was time to sell the cookies. I was not one to put the sheet up in my cube and sign here. Hey, you got to go out there and you have to go earn it.
Exactly.
This is what it has to be. And for every hero mom and dad that's doing this and then trying to get their daughter whatever prize, that's not the point. And you're going to be the one who's going to have to wire your daughter money 20 years from now on October 6th.
I guess that's who it's for. I guess it's for the people, the parents who just can't let their kids learn on their own, that you have to be this kind of helicopter and you have to be there. Like, no, go out there and get it. Go out there and get it. I'm going to support you no matter what. I'm going to love you no matter what. But I'm not going to bail you out. If you need extra money, you know how to get it. Work.
People told me this going into this, Danger. Would you agree with this? Like, it's easy when they're young. How could it be easy? I don't have sleep. I don't have... No. When you get to this point, okay, you're out on your own, and you can offer guidance, but you gotta let them live their lives, and you gotta, if they make mistakes and everything else, you can't.
Of course,
it's stressful.
I mean, your daughter is at school. My daughter is out, working and entrepreneurial spirit, and she's traveling, and she's doing all. My little one is thriving at Mercy and doing what she's doing there. And man, I want to instill in them that good choices and hard work can lead to a lot of great things. And you don't necessarily need me or your mother to bail you out. Just make good choices, work hard, get your nose in a book, surround yourself with the right people. You have your family, will always support you. But yeah, I hate the idea of National Transfer Money to Your Daughter Day. When's National Transfer Money to Your Son Day? Does that day exist? Probably not.
No.
Why? Oh, because we got to treat daughters differently? No. Get out there and work. Go get it. It's there. Oh, man. I'm fired up. This chili thing really has me fired up. I'm in Glengarry Glen Ross mode.
Can you go home? Are you one to, say, Sandy, this is a good idea? Would she fall for that? Like if you said, you pointed that out that, Give Your Daughter Money Day is coming up?
I won't bring it up to her because she brought up something to me around the dinner table the other night that I thought was so ridiculous that it really set me off. It really put me in a bad mood. Something about nursing home divorces or something like that, that there's there's a loophole where if you get a divorce when your spouse is in a nursing home, you don't lose all your money or something like that. The nursing home will drain you of all of your money unless you do this divorce. You don't really split, but on paper you divorce because it's a shelter and it protects you from. I can't remember the exact terminology because honestly, just the thought of doing it I thought was so gross. I'm like, so people are doing this just because they want to preserve the money that they have left, even though they're in a nursing home and they're probably not going to be around much longer, really? And I'm like, that's wild.
I would think there's different types of shelters than getting to that point.
I just think it's kind of wild. I'm like, hey, wow, you've probably been with your significant other for, at that stage of your life, 40, maybe 50 years at least, and you're just going to be like, you know what? It was a good run. Let's let's call it quits so we can preserve the money that we still have before the nursing home takes it all before we die. What do you think? Something along those lines. And I'm not being exact with what it was she was explaining to me now.
She's just laying the groundwork, dude. She knows she's going to outlive you, and you're going to have to be on a home.
I already told her. I mean, everybody's asked me, how was her trip to London? I'm like, it's like she was gone. I didn't even realize she was gone. I'm like, this isn't so hard. I can do this. It'd be the single dad life. What do you need? I did all the cook. What'd you guys eat? You eat fast food every night? No, I cooked. We had meals. We were good. We're fine. I can handle it. 10 days away. I mean, I missed her, of course, but I mean, we'll manage. We'll be all right. Yeah, not a good idea. Transfer money to your daughter day. Get out of here with that, Gino. Proud of my kids, though. Proud of my girls. I know you feel the same way.
I'm gonna, if I can, send a message to Leah. Just tell your old man this
about national transfer money to your daughter day. She knows better. She knows better. We got to get to Jim Riley, the Barreled Up podcast. Man, there's a lot going on as the season winds down. We have a game of significance happening right now, I believe, in Oakland, right?
Bottom of the third, no score between the Rangers and the A's. So assuming this doesn't go to extra innings, just 6 more innings left in Oakland. Which, one of the questions, you asked me this, and I don't know anybody, what are they going to do with that relic? It's not like there's
what does the Coliseum become?
Yeah. But you realize a lot of these stadiums still – did you know the Astrodome's still up?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that. They showed some overhead of the, where Energy Stadium where the Texans play. I'm like, wait, what is that little thing there? That's the Astrodome. My goodness.
Why don't they just blow it up, turn it into a parking lot? That's probably why it's still there, because they don't want to blow it up and turn it into a parking lot.
So, okay, and I'm getting off track here, but, hey, we're building a new stadium, blah, blah, blah. I haven't seen anything as far as what is it going to cost and everything else, and what would be the plan to take down the existing stadium?
For Oakland.
For Buffalo.
Oh, for Buffalo. Right. Yes. Yeah, you would imagine that that's going to be something down the road here that they're going to discuss.
I would hope that it's not going to be this life after people we'd all look at, and there's a big barbed wire fence.
No, that's got to go. You got to get that down. That'll come down. It has to come down. It's got to be a parking lot, right? They'll turn it into a parking lot. Somebody will have a very special parking space that this is where, the shovels first went in for the old, rich stadium, whatever. That's got to come down. But as far as Oakland goes, in the Coliseum, what are we doing? Are we doing a rodeo once a year? I mean, what are they using that for moving forward? There's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeesh. Maybe Jim knows. Jim Riley hosts the Barreled Up podcast. It's an Odyssey exclusive. You can hear it in the free-to-download Odyssey app, AUDACY. That's also where we sound our best at the Fan Rochester. We thank you for joining us at 95.7 FM, AM 950. And don't forget about the video stream as well. Like and subscribe. Our YouTube channel at the Fan Rochester and our stream on Twitch is live now as well at the Fan Rochester. More with Jim Riley from the Barreled Up podcast and your calls at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Sports Update.
Linebacker Terrell Bernard was seen at practice today in a red non-contact jersey. Head coach Sean McDermott has already ruled out Bernard and Taron Johnson for the upcoming game in Baltimore on Sunday night. Big game. Von Miller's trying to keep everything low-key.
They have a really tough offense, and what we've been doing here with the Buffalo Bills is just keeping it simple and just playing our game. Just going in and playing football, keeping it simple, keeping the expectations down, and just playing our game. And that's been working for us, and that's the type of mindset that we're bringing to this game as well.
Roster moves today for the Bills. Offensive lineman Will Clapp goes up to the 53-man roster. Tylen Grable goes on IR. Wide receiver Amarian Brown signed to the practice squad. Week 4 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's the Cowboys and Giants in New Jersey. Final game for the A's in Oakland, a sellout crowd. There's no score in the third between the A's and the Rangers. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Baseball's regular season winding down. We get set for the postseason. Still a couple of spots up for grabs, and we bring in Jim Riley from the Barreled Up podcast to break it all down for us and give us a little bit of a preview of what we're going to get this postseason in the Bigs. Jim, good to have you on with us. Appreciate the time. We were talking a lot about Oakland and the last home game happening as we speak. Question I had, does anybody know what's going to happen to the Coliseum once the A's are out?
It'll be converted into a museum. I have no clue.
Nobody knows. There's like zero plans around anything with this team. It's just an absolute dysfunctional mess.
Yeah, I mean I'm sure at some point they'll figure something out, or it'll turn into like RFK Stadium in Washington D.C. that is just sometimes used for soccer and just becomes defunct. I don't know. We'll see.
Jim, for those old enough to remember, we've had other kind of transient stories like the Houston Oilers becoming the Tennessee Oilers, and they're in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And the story that the A's have to go to Sacramento, we think for 3 years. We have Scott Boras putting his hand up in the air and said, hey, the Players Association, they haven't signed this off on this yet. Just what kind of mess is this? And then on top of that, I don't think the A's all of a sudden are going to up the payroll and give Sacramento a product that they'll get fans to come out for over the next few years in that searing heat.
No, the Oakland Athletics, it's going to get ugly, I think. There's some good talent, some good young talent, and unfortunately, I don't see how they're going to be able to surround any of that with any veterans. I'm looking at it right now. I've started putting together all of my research for the offseason, and the luxury tax payroll for the Oakland Athletics this year was $83.5 million, which they were the only team from a luxury tax payroll perspective that was below $100 million. Everybody else, by luxury tax, and that takes into account, every dollar. Everyone else was over 100. Even the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Pittsburgh Pirates took some heat this week because their actual payroll is at like $86 million. But when you account for their luxury tax, all the items that go to the luxury tax, they're actually at 122. They took some heat because they released Rowdy Tellez. Rowdy Tellez was 4 at-bats away from cashing in his $200,000 bonus. So, you got that going on too. But back to Oakland, no, I mean, right now I'm projecting them before signing any free agents to have a payroll of $33.5 million, a luxury tax payroll of $33.5 million. And they'll have to spend some money to fill some spots. But it's probably – so they were at 83.5 this year, luxury tax payroll. It's probably going to be even less next year. I can see them probably living somewhere in the 60s next year. And I don't know how it gets any better over the next couple of years. I mean, what will happen is that young talent that I'm talking about that they have, they're all still in the pre-arbitration and first year of arbitration phase. So, if anybody that needs a quick crash course, Basically, when you bring a player up from the minors, you get 6 years with that player until you have to pay him anything of extreme significance. And all of these Oakland players are pretty much at the beginning of that road. As they do start to creep up, I mean, they're going to start trading those players away. It's really going to be a terrible road to be an athlete. I don't know how many fans this team's going to have next year. The Oakland fans are going to bail. The Sacramento is going to be half-hearted at best. Just it's really sad to see a franchise go through this whole circus.
Well, now I know that it's all moving in this certain direction. I don't know what's finalized and what's not finalized, but the players' union hasn't yet agreed to the Sacramento thing. And I have to imagine, just because we went through this here in Buffalo with the pandemic and the Blue Jays having to play at a minor league ballpark, much like the A's are going to have to do in Sacramento. I mean, there's a lot of lifting that needs to be done to get that ballpark ready for Major League Baseball players. There's amenities that need to be involved and included that they probably don't have. And when it's all said and done, I still don't necessarily believe that the players' union is going to look at this and be like, oh, yeah, we have no problem going to Sacramento to play Major League Baseball games at that ballpark.
It is something they're going to have. So someone's going to have to give, or someone's going to have to lean. Maybe this will be an opportunity for the MLBPA to get something because that's how this stuff kind of feels like it tends to work out. It almost feels like politics, and they're trying to get a bill across. The way that they're going to actually make this happen is the players' union gets something that the players' union has been wanting for MLB to get the PA to give its stamp of approval. I mean, they have a long way to go. Let's just put it that way. It's a long way to go. I feel somehow, some way that this is going to get worked out. It just seems like it typically does. You see all the hurdles. I mean, the Olympics went through this years ago when it was in Rio, and there were stories about how they were not even close to being where they needed to be at a certain progress checkpoint, but they ended up still getting it done, even though, they probably scratched it together with Band-Aids and Scotch tape. Feels like the same thing's going to happen here, that it is inevitable, and even though the hurdles seem endless, and it's definitely comical, and it's inexcusable that it's going through this, it feels like it still somehow, some way gets done.
Yeah, well, Jim, I'm going to offer a solution here how this would get done. If you're the commissioner's office, union saying, yeah, we don't really like going to Sacramento, okay, let's get the ball rolling here on expansion. Poof, a whole bunch of jobs here for the players' union in a few years, but I don't know. I'm not hearing anything about this. I thought we would have been hearing about the expansion a little more seriously other than the random article here or there.
Yeah, expansion doesn't seem to be that ball does not seem to be moving very quickly. But I mean, at the end of the day, we can't really trust MLB to do the commissioner's office to do anything right here. I mean, they from as plainly obvious a decision this whole Mets and Braves series was, to the complicated element that this athletic situation is. I mean, if they can't get the Mets and Braves squared away correctly, then, I mean, when it comes to expansion, when it comes to working out this athletics thing, I really don't have I have very little faith in the commissioner's office.
Let's talk about that Braves-Mets series for a second, Jim. And I'm standing across from a Mets fan who's very frustrated, very upset that the season might come down to a doubleheader on Monday. And I'm curious as to whether or not the Braves, knew that they should. I mean, like, everybody knew that this was coming. Did Major League Baseball reach out to the Braves and say, hey, let's get these games in before the storm hits? Or was that something that the Braves pushed back on? Do we know anything about the logistics behind the scenes as to how this happened?
I haven't heard if the Braves front office had anything to do with it, being in Atlanta. But I would venture a guess that if you are an organization and you want to set yourself up to succeed in the postseason, then one of the things you don't want to do is play a doubleheader the day before you have to start.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, that doubleheader, it's going to happen because it will most certainly impact seeding and where you're going to play, if you're a home team, if you're a road team. So and even if it looks like it's going to be a situation where the Mets and Braves, let's say the Diamondbacks lose the rest of their games, and the Mets and Braves are going to be in. Well, they will still have to play to figure out who's the home team. And so there's really no excuse, knowing that this weather event was coming a week ago, for them to, when they both had a day off on Monday, for them to have not played one game on Monday, 2 games on Tuesday, boom, done. There's really no excuse. You can say, well, fans, attendance, they bought tickets, and the fans, pretty sure they'll adjust. This is the biggest series of the season, and I got to think the fans would have made it work. Oh, my game is now on Monday. Okay, I mean, NFL flexes games. They give you a little bit more notice, but I'm very surprised and disappointed that this was not worked out, and now they're going to have to play a doubleheader before they go and play and start their postseason.
Jim Riley, the Barreled Up Podcast, which you can hear inside the Odyssey app, our guest here in the Sports Bar. If there's one team, Jim, that I think this will play in their favor, sometimes it's not the best team, it's the hottest team. And the hottest team in baseball since the All-Star team break, the team with the best record, it's actually the Padres. The fact that the Dodgers haven't wrapped up the division, and they may well tonight, but the fact that the Padres are just going to kind of wait around, and whoever, a beat-up Met team or the Braves who sneak in or whatever it is this finally the year the Padres get to the World Series?
They've got everything they need to do it. I mean, the pitching, starting pitching. Now they're having trouble with their at the back of the bullpen, but they went out and traded for a couple of high-impact arms at the trade deadline, and that's been big because their closer has been very shaky. Suarez has been very up and down, but they do have Tanner Scott who can step into that role. So the bullpen's good. The rotation is good. Like, everybody's healthy. This is a team that is certainly poised. There's a great Dodgers YouTube channel, Dodgers Nation, and Doug McCain is one of the main guys behind that. They've got 100,000 subscribers. Big production they put up there. They get they get Friedman in there for interviews. So they're in there. And I've talked to Doug. Me and Doug are friendly. And Doug says, when I asked him about the Padres, he said that if I said I wasn't worried about the Padres in the short series, I'd be lying. And this guy is as much of a Dodger fan and as connected to the Dodgers as you'll get. And if he has concern, then everybody should have concern. Maybe there will be some with, confidence, but behind that confidence, I guarantee you there's concern as well. Because the Padres do seem like they are for real. The bats, last year's team underperformed. This year's team, they went out there and improved the pitching. They bring Jackson Maryland, who's likely to be the Rookie of the Year. They bring Jurickson Profar. Jurickson Profar is playing on $1 million. Nobody wanted him. And Jurickson Profar has I'll be surprised if he doesn't get MVP votes. He maybe get 1 or 2, but he's been that much of an impact on the San Diego Padres. It's a great team. They're a fun team. They're an exciting team. They're a must-watch team. This series, I've been staying up late because I can't miss Dodgers and Padres. It's great baseball.
Jim, in the American League, when you look at the Central, are we viewing these 3 teams that look like they're going to be in the postseason as paper tigers, knowing that all 3 of them really just beat up on the worst team historically that we've ever seen in the Chicago White Sox? And by the way,
they're winning.
The gall.
What are they doing?
What is wrong with the Anaheim? You know what? Angels, you know better.
Contract the Angels.
Really? I mean, seriously. Beat the White Sox. What are you about to get swept by the White Sox? That's embarrassing. But anyways, my point is, are you fading the teams from the AL Central in the postseason, knowing that their regular season was marred with these series against the Chicago White Sox?
So that's certainly you can go that route, but at the same time, I think that the Detroit Tigers are a good team. They're playing good baseball. The Kansas City Royals, their pitching has been so good, and their pitching has been good against everybody. This is a team, this Kansas City team, they can pitch, but they just can't hit. In the end, it's going to come down to the matchups, and it'll be sad and I don't think reflective of how good these teams are if they do get bounced in their first rounds. The Detroit Tigers, if the postseason that started today, they would be going up against the Astros in Houston. And even with Tarek Skubal, I feel like Houston grabs that series. I would take Houston. And Baltimore would host the Kansas City Royals. And even though the Orioles have been struggling, they seem to have turned it back on against the Yankees here. The Royals are having a terrible time scoring runs and hitting. So I would take the Orioles. So you would see two of those three teams bounced in the first round, but that's more about, that's the matchups. The Astros, the Orioles are better teams on paper and on the field. But the Tigers do have that weapon, that lefty, Tarek Skubal, but he only gets to play one game. So they can go on to win the Skubal game, but then they have to try to find another win in there, and Houston's pitching is phenomenal. And then Houston would go up against Cleveland. Houston could be the central killer. They take out Detroit, then they go take out Cleveland. Because, again, Houston's pitching is maybe the best heading into the postseason.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the Yankees and who it's got to be Houston, right? I mean, the question about the Yankees, though, and the news from the Yankees, Nestor Cortes out 7 to 10 days. We may not see him at all for the rest of the season, but that really shouldn't impact this team. Does it really just come down to, can this lineup scratch out runs when they need to?
That's exactly what it's going to be. You're going to have we are lined up for a Yankees and Astros ALCS, and it is going to come down to how good will those Yankee bats be against that Houston pitching, because that Houston pitching, we're looking at a situation where Justin Verlander, I look at the Astros, and I don't know how Justin Verlander takes the mound. That's how good this rotation is with Framber Valdez, with Ronald Blanco, with Hunter Brown, Spencer Arrighetti, Yusei Kikuchi, who they acquired at the trade deadline. They're so good. And you don't need 5 pitchers as you go through a postseason series. So all that'll do is make their bullpen even better, because you'll only need Brown, Valdez, and Kikuchi to make starts through the through the rotation, and then you swing it back around. The Astros are going to have the pitching. The Yankees have it too, though, right? With Garrett Cole, with Luis Gil. After that, that's where you just kind of you wonder, you question. Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Marcus Stroman slides back into the rotation with the Cortez injury news. They've got the guys, but if I stack the two up, Houston and New York, Houston's got the edge when it comes to the rotation. So it will come down to the bats. And good news for the Yankees, they have two of the best to do it, Judge and Soto.
When you look at the National League, Jim, how do you see it shaking out? What does our NLCS prediction look like right now, if you had to call it?
So if the postseason started today, Atlanta would be out. Now, obviously, there's a lot of change that could happen here. The Mets could be out, the Diamondbacks could be out, the Braves could be in, and so. But I think in the end, what's really going to be amazing is because the Padres have secured their wild card berth, they've got the number 1 wild card seed locked up, which means they beat whoever is the 5 seed, the Mets, the Braves, or the Diamondbacks. The Padres beat that team, one of those 3. They will play the Dodgers in the NLDS theater. And again, short series, Padres will make the Dodger fans and that Dodgers team, it'll make them nervous. The Dodgers are going to have some pitching issues. Their bats are back. Their bats are healthy. Nobody can go back during the regular season and say, oh, we did this against the Dodgers during the regular season, or we won the head-to-head against the Dodgers during the regular season, because the Dodgers spent much of the regular season without Mookie Betts, without Max Muncy, without Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Yamamoto's back. Jack Flaherty showed up in August at the trade deadline. So there are some pieces. The pitching is still a little worrisome, but the bats are back. And look, hey, lost in everything I'm saying, we finally get to see Ohtani in the postseason. That's something we have wanted to have for Ohtani's entire career. We're finally going to get it. But the Dodgers got to get past the Padres. The Dodgers and Phillies feels like the natural progression of things, but Padres could steal it from the Dodgers. And if they do, then I think the Padres probably go the distance if the Padres can get past LA in the NLDS.
So, Jim, because we're not just satisfied with the postseason, we're always looking ahead, and particularly if you listen to New York Talk Radio, WFAN, who is more likely to be wearing a different uniform next year, Pete Alonso or Juan Soto?
That's a great question. You know, as the season has gone on, the odds of Alonso being back back with the Mets just feels like it keeps rising. So I believe Juan Soto will be back in pinstripes. I think that I look at it originally. I looked at it from the Yankees trying to get Juan Soto initiated, right? Let him experience playing with Aaron Judge, being in that clubhouse, working with Aaron Boone, the whole thing, right? Get him indoctrinated into the Yankee way. He won't want to leave. We'll have an advantage when we are going toe to toe with the Mets on our contract and our dollars. He will say, you know what? I want to stay with the Yankees. I want to stay in pinstripes because I like it there. I like playing with Aaron Judge. I like that fan base. I love that fan base. I love that park. I think the opposite has happened. I think the Yankees front office has fallen in love with Soto in the way that they hoped that Soto would fall in love with them. Because if let's say Juan Soto stayed with the Padres or Juan Soto was traded to any other team, the New York Yankees would probably enter this offseason with a ceiling for how much they would be willing to offer. But after going through this year with him, I think the ceiling's gone. I think they will match, counter any offer that comes to the table for Juan Soto from any team. I don't think the Yankees will allow him to get away. I think Cashman and Steinbrenner will say, you know what? What's it take? What's Steve Cohen at? Steve Cohen's at 6. Okay, we'll go to 6.15. I just think they will counter no matter what Steve Cohen does. And as far as Pete Alonso goes, I don't know if Pete's going to have the market that he's hoping for. I feel like the Mets at the end of the day will have the best offer, especially if the Mets are looking like Juan Soto's going back to the Yankees. Pete Alonso will probably remain on the market a little while and come back to the Mets. As time has gone on, I'm kind of sold on the idea of both of them being back with their current club.
It's going to be a fascinating postseason. It's going to be a fascinating offseason, Jim. We're very thankful that we have you along for the ride and that we can tap into your knowledge and expertise and get some of your opinions and takes on everything going on in Major League Baseball. Tell us a little bit more about Barreled Up for our audience to check out in the free-to-download Odyssey app.
Yeah, make sure to subscribe to the Barreled Up podcast. We are talking baseball, real-time talk, reacting to what's going on, bringing on guests and getting their opinion. And, I mean, if you like baseball, Barreled Up podcast has to be in your rotation. Subscribe.
Yeah, and remember one time we were in real time tracking Shohei Ohtani's flight to Toronto, only find out he wasn't on the flight. Right now, our breaking item, it's the ongoing game in Oakland. The A's are up on the Rangers 2-0 in the fifth.
How do you think the A's fans react at the end of this game, Jim, just quickly?
You know, if they win, I think it'll be a happier group. If they lose, especially being up 2-0, if Texas comes back and steals this one, and they're already going to be a little irritable, I think maybe there's an issue or two, but I don't think it gets out of hand. I'll say that the fans take the high road, the A's get the win, and there'll be a few outbursts, but nothing mob-like.
Jim, if you get a chance, and maybe you've already seen it, you can look this up. Go watch the end of the Montreal Expos and how they had every player come out and Frank Robinson, and the fans are applauding, and some of them are crying, and there's Youppi. I don't see that scene. Yeah, nobody's going to be on the field at all. It's like, okay, game over. Everybody go home now.
They told them. Yeah. They gave them memos. They were direct. Get out of there. Once the game's over, get out of there.
Guy's a jerk. Absolute jerk. Appreciate the time, Jim. Let's talk again soon.
Yeah, guys, sounds good.
Yeah. That's right. Fisher and the team put out a memo to the players.
Leave.
Don't stick around. I mean, if you're a player and it means something to you, You're ignoring that. You're ignoring that, and you're just like, you know what? Screw you. I'm gonna meet some of these fans that are faithful, the fans that did come out, that did support us, and that would continue to support us if we had an owner who is willing to work with Oakland and get us what we need to be able to continue here. It's a joke. It's almost as big of a joke as the Angels about to be swept by the White Sox. What's going on?
It just happened.
Oh, it's final?
7-0. The White Sox, I believe this is their first sweep of the season, Danger. They remain at 120 losses. Shame on you, Angels. Shame on you.
The Tigers have the White Sox next, yes?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Chris flexing with a win today to raise his record to 3-15.
Nice.
Hey.
Well done. You got a 3-game winning streak going into that series against Detroit. Series Detroit needs, right? Like they haven't clinched anything yet. I mean, it's looking like Detroit and Kansas City will be your wild card teams in the AL. But if the White Sox are intent on playing spoiler, take that 3-game winning streak against Detroit. I can't believe the Angels got swept by the White Sox. You should just be. That's shameful. You should have. This is the case for the players need to stay on the field and just take the shame from the fans. The fans should be able to ask questions and ridicule and mock the team that just got swept by the Chicago White Sox.
Do they have an Angel mascot? Because the mascot should be out there. I don't think they have cheerleaders, but the bat boy and ball girls, everybody associated should just be standing there in a line.
Absolutely embarrassing. We'll keep you posted on what's going on with Oakland as well. We've got happy hour next. We have time for your calls at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. We'll recap our conversation from the 3 o'clock hour with Dan Fates, what we learned from the Buffalo Bills as they continue to prepare for the Baltimore Ravens. Week 4 gets underway tonight. We haven't talked about the Giants and the Cowboys yet. We can dive into that as well. And don't forget about a round of shots coming up, too. All on the Fan Rochester.
WNBF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
From Bills practice today, linebacker Terrell Bernard was back at it. He was in a red non-contact jersey. And mind you, head coach Sean McDermott has already ruled out Bernard and Taron Johnson for the game Sunday night against Baltimore. A.J. Epineza knows the Bills' defense, they're going to be up against a good one in Derrick Henry.
They're a team that definitely prides himself on physicality. Downhill running is definitely what he specializes in, and being physical and big, strong back like that. And so, it's definitely being stressed on just what he's capable of. But we're just, like I said, harping on our fundamentals of what we can do great to be able to stop him.
Roster moves today. Offensive lineman Will Clapp goes up to the 53. Tyron Gabriel goes on IR. Wide receiver Amarian Brown signed to the practice squad. Week 4 tonight begins. Cowboys and Giants from the Meadowlands. Baseball final game in Oakland. Sellout crowd. A's are leading the Rangers 3-0. Top of the 6th. Gene Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
I think this game comes down to the wire, and then Josh Allen and the Bills will probably make a comeback, and we'll see if that Ravens defense can hold on.
And I'll say the Ravens win it by literally a point, but I could see it going either way.
Mike Danger.
I'm really struggling in trying to come up with a prediction for Sunday night. Now, on one hand, the Bills look like at times they're the best team in the NFL, and I don't know that they are, but I can tell you that the vibes around the Buffalo Bills right now are the best in the NFL. And then the Ravens, nobody is taking Baltimore lightly going into this matchup on Sunday. How do you see this all playing out?
Gene Battaglia.
If the Bills lose this game, Danger, I would just say on the surface, there's no shame. The only way we're upset about this is if we see things that are uncharacteristic. But I think that this week, managing everybody's emotions here, it may not go your way, but I don't think there's going to be any shame in this loss.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's happy hour in the sports bar. I got a lot of stuff rattling around in my mind. I'm still thinking about National Transfer Money to Your Daughter Day, which is coming up here October 6th. If we're going to celebrate National Daughters Day, do we have to celebrate National Transfer Money to Your Daughter's Day? And I'm sitting here saying, go out, earn it, work. I'm a little bit fraudulent in saying that, too, because for me, National Transfer Money to Your Daughter's Day happens bi-weekly when I take a little chunk of my paycheck and set it aside for them in their future. So I guess in a way, I am not doing it once a year on National Transfer Money to Your Daughter's Day, but actually bi-weekly setting aside a little bit for their future.
I want to know who came up with that idea, though. Was it some financial person that gets a commission every time money gets withdrawn? And, hey, you know what? Gift ahead of time. Give money to your daughter. She's the one taking care of you.
Yeah, I'm not giving them money, but I am taking money out of my paycheck to save for them, which feels like would be a better message maybe to send than just transfer money to your daughter on a specific date. Maybe we just create a month where it's like, hey, National Save Your Money Month. I don't know, something where you can, encourage a habit that might actually set your kids up for a brighter future.
Boy, you never heard of that.
Never heard of it.
Wow.
National Transfer Money to Your Daughter Day.
I feel like I've got to kind of put that in the ears there of Leah and Lexi. Just be like, hey, go ask your old man for some money.
They know better. They know better.
Go ask your mom better.
I've got that. I've got my staggering defeat of the crockpot cook-off still in my mind. It's still weighing heavily on me. There's only so many kind things I can hear.
Stop. You're focused on the wrong things. We had a fun event. Your chili was outstanding. There was a lot of other good stuff. 3 heads. I can't complain when I could have the skunk IPA for lunch today. How rare is that? Did you realize if we grew up in the 60s, this would have been the norm? Or we worked in the 60s, Danger. We're going out for the liquid lunch every day.
Getting sauced.
Yeah.
Coming back into the office. Chasing skirt. That was what they were doing back then.
Because we're adding a little something to this month's sales contest. As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives.
That's it.
Third prize is you're fired.
There's my set of steak knives behind Gino there, the Wooden Spoon Award for second place in the crockpot cook-off today. My chili was the highest rated chili because there were other chilies being served. So I'll take pride in that. But now what am I going to do? I got these steak knives. Got to cut a fillet. Is that what I have?
Did Jimmy actually, the one who won the contest, was it him or his wife? I'm being honest.
His wife.
So that's DQ.
It's not a
That's
DQ. Because she made it. He brought it in. I mean, this is Jimmy. Jimmy's not on social media. Lives out in the woods. He's a man's man. Like, I love Jimmy. Love him to death. And he came in here. He's like, your chili was really, really good, man. Really good.
It's a popularity contest. It was John who wrote in
That's
earlier.
not making me feel better.
Yeah, John wrote in similar thing, and the HR director won it, like where he worked. Yeah, that's what this is. That's where I would say take the name off of it. Better yet, take it out of the actual crock pot, and let's do it this blind here.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, you can see behind Gene my second place award there, the Wooden Spoon Award for the Crockpot Cookout. And I also still have, which I love, this is my Instapot, which I use to carry the chili around. And what I love about it, and the Dandalorian, our bounty hunter, the finest audio in the galaxy, saw this earlier, and I served him up some of my chili. He gave it a 9.2, by the way. I appreciate that, Dan. This thing actually looks like, if I can nerd out for a second, anybody that's seen The Mandalorian. This looks like the thing that they walk around carrying the Beskar in. It's got it's got a locking lid. I love this thing. If you saw this next year for the Crockpot Cookout, you're like, oh, that's dangerous. That you would know it's mine even if you didn't put the name on it. So you're right. You might have to go with just trays or bowls or something different.
The Bills are 3-0. You feel actually okay going into a game in Baltimore. But in the years that we've been doing this, a venue like Baltimore, we'd be like, oh. This is where we're at, Danger. We're worried about other things in the world here because the Bills are playing so well right now. At week 4, hey, you can even drop this one. It's okay. We know this is a bit different Bills offense here in 2024.
Yeah, week 4 gets underway tonight with the Cowboys traveling to the Meadowlands. And, I think Dak is going for his 13th straight win against the Giants.
That's a crazy stat. 2016, his rookie year.
Yeah, he owns the Giants, right?
Tony Romo was still on the roster.
If you're going to apply stats like that to your thought process of how these games might turn out, the outcome of these games, you have to factor in John Harbaugh's record in primetime games. I mean, it's pretty significant. You have to factor in Lamar Jackson's record when he's considered a small favorite. Like there's different trends that you spot with games, and when they're that lopsided, you have to sit up straight and take note of it. I mean, going in tonight, I don't give the Giants much of a chance, and that Dak stat is enough for me. Like, okay, Dak doesn't lose to this team. Is it going to happen some point? Maybe, but I don't think it's going to happen tonight. I think the Cowboys go in there and they absolutely wax the Giants.
There is a 71% chance of rain. And we're not talking a little rain on Sunday. So this, as they say, Mike Danger, weather the great equalizer in football and in sports. But this is the same thing that's causing the Mets and Braves to be postponed. The remnants of this hurricane will be in the Baltimore area. Yeah, that for a Bills passing attack in the rain, that's also a concern here coming up. The winds, they may or may not be a factor.
Winds are what I'd be worried about. The rain, I think they could probably manage through. I mean, worst case scenario, Shakir drops one of his targets, which he hasn't done yet this year.
No, I don't. I want him to go the whole year without.
Right, he'll never drop a target.
Every target goes his way.
Yeah, but the wind, and if it's a storm, that's another thing. But and we're hoping that everybody stays safe in the path of the storm as it's coming. But yeah, it does every year. I feel like we have a weekend that gets upset by a hurricane or a tropical storm or something of the like. And, well, your Mets are in the path of it this year. I'm sorry, Gino.
It's going to spell doom for whoever comes out of that, because the fact that you have to play 2, and even though the Mets they could actually get this done by winning against Milwaukee, and Milwaukee not having anything to play for, but because of the seeding of the playoffs, you're still going to have to go back to Atlanta on Monday. So let's review. You fly from Atlanta to Milwaukee, and you're going to go back to Atlanta, and the next night you begin the playoffs, only a best of 3, and likely that would be San Diego. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Bills Sunday night.
Not great, Bob.
Jim Riley from the Barreled Up podcast broke it all down for us last hour. We talked Major League Baseball postseason. We talked about what's going on in Oakland as we speak with the A's playing their final game at the Coliseum. And Dan Fates from 13WM also stopped by in the 3 o'clock hour to talk about the Bills and the Ravens. If you missed either of those conversations, you can find them wherever you get your podcast. Search out the Sports Bar, and that includes the free-to-download Odyssey app. We appreciate that. And again, thanks for checking us out on YouTube, our stream on our channel at The Fan Rochester, also on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. We sound our best in the Odyssey app and on your smart speaker when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan.
A's are leading the Rangers 3-2 in the 6th.
Now the Rangers got a couple.
So Bob Nightingale reporting last night that, and there was a good crowd last night, but somebody, robbing one of the chairs, like taking a souvenir, and the police chasing after somebody with taking one of the chairs out of there. And
did he walk through the gates with like a Stanley drill? Like how?
Yeah,
he's got a DeWalt drill on his hip, and he's just going to unscrew the
I would
seats?
think that you couldn't get through with a drill.
I would imagine you could not.
No.
No, I don't think you could. So he's just ripping it off with his bare hands. I mean, if you're going to go through that effort, hell, take it. Go. Yeah, you're crazier than I am.
But I'm just. This is a story that's coming up here in 2 hours. What is the scene going to look like in Oakland? Is it going to be, hey, thank you, A's, and then there'll be a dignitary out there, Ricky Henderson or whoever, waving to everybody? No. At least that last part we know no. Once the game is over, the A's have been ordered, get off the field as soon as possible. And the Rangers aren't going to hang out there and wave to the fans. They don't care. They're going to hightail it out of town. So, okay, game is over, and you have 35,000 emotional people feeling like they're left at the altar? I just think this could be a bad scene.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a bad scene. All of it is a bad scene.
All of it, but
it's a bad scene could get worse, I suppose. I'm not more paying attention to this. I'm just stunned, appalled, shocked. I think that the Los Angeles Angels should have to stay on the field after being swept by the White Sox and preventing history from happening on their watch. I think that their fans should just be able to ridicule, ask questions, pointed questions. They have to answer for these atrocities. You can't get swept by the White Sox when they need one more loss to make history.
The White Sox have won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
They're 5-5 in their last 10. What are we doing here?
We want greatness, boys.
Finish the job.
We want greatness. I don't want to hear about your 3-15 record on the season. Who is the pitcher?
Chris Flexen.
Yeah, nice.
3-15.
Congratulations. You're 3-15. I want 3-16. I want 2-16. I want the record. I want greatness. You're not there yet, guys. Angels, what are you doing?
That's a team that should fire everybody too. Didn't ask Jim Riley that question, but that's the thing with the White Sox. There's just no hope, though. You could tolerate it if there was young talent. To my knowledge, I don't see any talent out there whatsoever.
Headlines from Buffalo today. We saw Terrell Bernard on the practice field with the red non-contact jersey, even though he has already been ruled out for Sunday's game. We got a little bit more color on Taron Johnson's forearm injury. It was a broken forearm with a recovery time of 4 to 6 weeks. The hope, I think, for Johnson is that maybe he can return by week 5, but I would imagine that you would see that ramp up if you were going to see him on week 5. Maybe the Bernard being on the practice field this week is part of the ramp up for week 5, and I would say with Johnson, you'd probably need a week of him practicing in the non-contact before we see him on the field.
Yeah, as Matt Perino pointed out to us on Tuesday, the Bills always seemingly just side with caution here when it comes to bringing back veterans, whether that's Tre'Davious White or Von Miller or anybody that's coming back. Let's make sure they're close to 100, if not 100%. And I think that is one of the surprises. In a year through 3 weeks where we've had lots of surprises, I wasn't believing Cam Lewis would be making the roster, and here he is feeling that way. For that matter, Jamarcus Ingram, and then Balin Spector filling in this way. So really, it's not just Sean McDermott. I give kudos here to Brandon Beane and his scouting department there for finding these guys and making sure that you keep them in the system. So there is something to be said for continuity, but let's not make any mistake about it, though. And I keep waiting for this to pop up. And I think this is the week where it pops up. This cumulative effect that you've lost this talent on the defensive side of the ball. Can the Ravens actually kind of take advantage of this on a rainy night in Baltimore? Danger. I'm not moving off my mark. We'll give our final picks tomorrow, but I'm leaning like the Ravens by 3 here, which would just barely give them a cover in this game.
Jamarcus Ingram earlier today on this defense needing to be physical against the Ravens.
Yeah, it brings a big challenge. Those guys are good and they play well, and we're just gonna bring our physicality and attack the game like we usually do. That's something we stress a lot. Just being physical. So I feel like we brought a lot, but we got a lot more that we can bring.
As one of those undrafted guys that has stepped up into a bigger role this season, Jamarcus Ingram knows that this defense is going to have to match the physicality of Baltimore's offense.
Well, I mean, and we talked earlier with Dan Fates, and I kind of agree. For as good as Lamar Jackson is, if you can just make him throw from the pocket, and you think, oh, the Ravens have all these weapons. Do they? Like, Mark Andrews has been invisible. And I know Isaiah Likely has come about as a tight end, but
no, he's been invisible the last 2 weeks, too. This fantasy owner has had enough.
Okay. Well, Zay Flowers. Like, okay, he's still a young player, but is he really a wide receiver one? Well, I think we're at the point now, Danger, where I'm doing an eraser sound effect. Christian, this is me with two IPAs on the air. Like Christian Benford is doing a great job as a corner for Buffalo, and I think that is not a concern whatsoever when you're facing a wide receiver now.
Opposite Christian Benford will be Rasul Douglas. Rasul Douglas on the MVP.
Yeah, but he's a football player. You know what I mean? He's a good one. What he can do on the field is like unmatched as a dual threat quarterback.
It's gonna be tough. You're leaning Ravens plus Ravens minus 3.
Yeah.
I still don't know tomorrow. I'll be in the break room, and I don't know what Ryan is going to wear. I have no. I know you're reaching out to me and you're asking me what's he going to do to top this. I don't know.
What was that? It wasn't the Blue Man Group.
No.
It was like, what was that?
It was a black suit. Where you have green man wear green. You're wearing all green. It was black. It was all black.
But why?
Well, week 1, he came in with a very loud Buffalo Bills themed Hawaiian shirt. Week 2, he came in with a very loud Buffalo Bills themed Hawaiian shirt. We ridiculed him, as you would imagine, Gene. He took quite a beating for his wardrobe. In week 3, he showed up in all black. You can't make fun of what you can't see. And
gotcha.
Foolish Ryan. I mean, Duffy and Tommy are ruthless, and they can absolutely make fun of you, even if you're going to wear the all black suit that melts into the chair that you're sitting in to try and look invisible while you're trying to make predictions for the upcoming Bills game. So that's tomorrow morning, and I've got a little bit of thinking to do, but I'm telling you, if we're going to sit here and spout off trends that are lopsided, like we mentioned for tonight's game with Dak and the Giants, it's hard to ignore the Lamar trends. It's hard to ignore the John Harbaugh and primetime trends, and that makes it tough to believe that the Bills can go in there and get the win, despite how good they've looked here through three weeks of the young season.
Yeah, it's funny because you would think that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens wouldn't be this good primetime team, knowing that they're playing all these quality teams. But just looking, he does show up, and I'm looking at these QBRs. They're just they're nice. Just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. We'll have the game for you Sunday night. Our pregame coverage gets underway Sunday afternoon. Well, 4 games of pregame for you starting at 4 o'clock. 4 hours of pregame for you here on the Fan Rochester. 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. We'll get you everything that you need to know for Bills-Ravens coming up on Sunday night as Week 4 gets underway tonight on Amazon Prime. The Giants hosting the Cowboys. Tomorrow, we should mention, we'll have a fantasy football conversation as we do every Friday with our buddy Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy. Will help you set your lineup for a victory in Week 4. And this is a surprise. Former Buffalo Bill, former NFL star, lights out. Sean Merriman is going to be calling in.
Yeah, we'll get his thoughts on what he's seeing so far. Sean Merriman, first time in the show. Lights out. Loved him in San Diego.
He was such a great player. Yeah. So talk about a star who's shined brightly for a moment, man. He was fantastic with the Chargers.
Yeah. Funny, we've gone 2 hours, 21 minutes on the show. We haven't mentioned, and I think we should, The Sabres named the captain today.
Oh,
Rasmus
right,
Dahlin.
right.
Maybe is it because Danger that we all knew this? It was widely accepted, and you finally got around to this today, or is September hockey the most out of place thing on the sports calendar when we are just drinking in NFL and college football and everything and the pennant races in baseball? And yeah, I feel like hockey will get to it, but there are Sabre fans that are excited that they have a captain, and my gosh, we're only 8 days away from the season opener for Buffalo.
So you've got Dahlin as your captain. You've got Tuck, Cousins, Tage, and Samuelson as your alternates, and the alternates will rotate on a game-by-game basis, I guess. Okay. I mean,
sure,
it's fine. Dahlin, I think every year with me, the way I look at Dahlin every year, I feel like, all right, this is the year he's going to take that next step. This year he's going to take that next step. Like, he's a good player, but then when you look around the rest of the NHL and you see other players that have a similar style to Dahlin, it's like, oh, man, Makar is nice. Like, you see some of these guys and you're like, that's what I wanted Dahlin to be, and maybe he can still be that. It's just taken a long time. There was a kid when he started playing, so he gets the C on his sweater, and the Sabres, I can't believe that we're talking about hockey at the end of September. It does feel a little bit out of place, but that was something that was a question mark going into the offseason. We have a little bit of clarity there for the Buffalo Sabres as far as who their captains are for the upcoming season.
Gosh, you realize, like, they're so young, Danger. Like, Dahlin's 24, Powers 21, Tage Thompson. Oh my gosh, I remember him talking to him on Meet the Amherst night. He's still only 26.
Yeah. But now they're men. They're turning into men right before our eyes,
right,
and they need to play in a man's league, and that's, I think, one of the things that's hurt the Sabres, as far as their ability to be consistent, is that they're still kind of young. They're still kind of immature. Let's get to a round of shots next.
Yeah, let's get to some of the baseball notes we can have for you. We had the story about Brett Favre we've been talking about. There's another great from another NFC Central or NFC North team that right now he's battling. We'll tell you about that. An NBA great retiring. How great, we can kind of debate that. And who is primed and ready and saying to the world, I am going to have quite a season here in the NBA. It's one of Mike Danger's favorites.
Oh, boy. Can't wait for that. Is it somebody that we need to appreciate a little bit more?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh. Okay.
No.
We'll get into that and more next.
Third person being the hint here.
A round of shots on the way. Last call as well here in the Sports Bar at 866-4326. You can have the final word at 585-866-4FAN.
Breaking news from the Fan Rochester is presented by BetQL. Smarter bets start with BetQL. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today.
You love sports, and so do we. Download the free Odyssey app to listen to games, podcasts, and radio stations like the Fan Rochester for free. Odyssey, for everything Bills, Sabres, and Amherst. Follow the Fan Rochester in the Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Practice notes for the Bills today. Linebacker Terrell Bernard at practice in a red non-contact jersey. However, head coach Sean McDermott has already ruled out Bernard and Taron Johnson for the game Sunday night in Baltimore. Baltimore, a tough opponent. Von Miller trying to keep everything low-key.
They have a really tough offense, and what we've been doing here with the Buffalo Bills is just keeping it simple and just playing our game. Just going in and playing football, keeping it simple, keeping the expectations down, and just playing our game. And that's been working for us, and that's the type of mindset that we're bringing to this game as well.
Roster moves today. Offensive lineman Will Clapp goes up to the 53. Tylen Grable goes on IR. Wide receiver Amarian Brown signed to the practice squad. Week 4 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's the Cowboys and Giants from the Meadowlands. Yankees are home, taking on the Orioles. Gene Battaglia on the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
If you want pure, unfiltered, unadulterated sports, you've come to the right place. 95.7 FM, The Fan, Rochester.
Happy Hour continues on The Fan. In the sports bar, it's time for a round of shots.
And they are in the bottom of the 7th, 1 out, which means there are only 2 more innings left in the history of athletics baseball in Oakland. The A's, well, unless it goes to extras, I suppose. A's leading the Rangers 3-2 in this game, Danger. It is a sellout crowd. The rookie Kumar Rocker not getting to 5 innings for Texas in this game. And the question is, all right, well, what happens once it's all said and done? The A's and Major League Baseball both saying to their players, get off the field as soon as possible following today's game.
Is it going to be ugly? You think it's going to be ugly?
I think it could be ugly. I think, where as compared to what I watched in Montreal, and again, that's 2004.
I mean, a lot has changed in 20 years.
20 years.
There's certainly a lot of hostility towards John Fisher, and it's deserved. But I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. I just want to believe that the fans are going to, kind of like just leave, just be emotional, but not violent, not aggressive, not, that they're not going to be destructive.
It doesn't ever come. Well, like when the Raiders had their last game, Raider Nation kind of knows. They kind of roll with it. I don't think the Chargers ever had a chance to say goodbye, did they, in San Diego?
I don't think
so. This is different. It feels different to me that the A's kind of wrapping this up. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, like the only thing I can compare it to in like Montreal, where they all stood and applauded, and everybody just said goodbye.
Well, they're very polite north of the border. Very polite, the Canadians. They do. They have manners. They have. They're just polite. They're a different breed. Things have changed, and the hatred towards this owner is something that they didn't have in Montreal. Like they all hate this owner for what he's done and what he's doing. And at the time, I think Montreal was a ship at sea, right?
Right. They didn't have an owner at the time, and nobody stepped up. So this was. They tried to find a solution to the point where they're playing some games in San Juan, and that didn't work out. So this guy in Oakland, the problem is if he sold, how many people would step in and say, yeah, and they would go back to the table with Oakland, let's build this stadium that's been on the books here.
We could, yes, right. I mean, there's probably, you probably could count a dozen billionaires in that region that would step up and
Silicon
be like,
Valley,
yeah, that would step up and say, I'll take the A's. Yeah. So sell me the A's. I'll take them. And then we'll build a stadium and we'll be fine. It's his fault. This guy's terrible.
Well, where that's disturbing, Danger, I find this even more disturbing.
Agreed.
Not scoring a run today, the L.A. Angels are swept by the White Sox. The White Sox haven't won a series in straight sets this whole year. The White Sox still not at 120 losses on the season.
Is this the first sweep of the season for the White Sox?
Yeah, 7-0 White Sox.
Good, great timing. We want greatness, boys. What are we doing? No more winning games, okay? Go up to Detroit, fall on your face, take the record, be the worst ever. That's what we expect. We don't want We don't want you to start winning games. And if you're the Angels, shame on you. Shame on you.
I'm looking at this Angel lineup. Like, they don't have anything either, though.
No, they're a bad team.
No, they're a bad team. Maybe they're going to make a run for the White Sox record. Well, I don't think we have any fear that the White Sox are going to get the record here, Danger, because now they go to Detroit.
Yeah.
And who had the Tigers sneaking in here? But this is now the Tigers' wild card berth to lose.
Right.
Here.
If you don't make the wild card, if you're the Tigers, you don't make the wild card. I mean, you have nobody to blame but yourself. You can't get past the White Sox. Please.
Longtime Viking fans know the name Tommy Kramer.
Oh,
right?
I know this name so well.
Yeah.
This is one of my earliest football memories growing up in Minnesota was Tommy Kramer. Word on the street was Tommy Kramer was a drunk, although I think a lot of NFL players back then were drunks.
Yeah, I think you had to cope somehow with the way that you played the game back then. 2-minute Tommy was called. Played 13 of his 14 years with the Vikings. Kramer sharing on social media today he's been diagnosed with dementia. Yeah. Kramer's doctors told him at his 1-year checkup that the dementia hasn't advanced and that, well, as you mentioned, he stopped consuming alcohol to better cope with it.
Good.
Kramer, second in the Viking franchise history in passing yards, only behind the great Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah, that's crazy. That stat right there is a little nuts. The fact that the Vikings haven't had somebody that can go beyond the passing yards of Tommy Kramer or Fran Tarkenton, when you look back at some of the names that they've had there, and more recently, even Kirk Cousins, I would think. I mean, he wasn't there as long as Kramer and as long as Tarkenton, but that's a old record for a Vikings quarterback.
For a short period, Derrick Rose was a toast to the NBA. He was the league's MVP in 2010. The Bulls, that was exciting. And then, well, injuries took their toll. But give Rose credit, he was able to make a career out of it for 16 years. Rose announcing his retirement today. He took full-page ads out in each city he played in. By the way, we still do that. Chicago, New York, Cleveland, Minneapolis, Detroit, and Memphis.
Okay.
Like, can we stop doing that? Or
the full page?
The full-page ad.
I mean,
it means more than...
it feels like you could just accomplish it by putting out a tweet. I don't know.
Right.
But, you know,
it's your money.
If that's what he wants to do. I remember him starting his career in Chicago, and man, we were just lapping it up. Man, this guy is it. We're going to be back. This is our guy. He's not going to be Jordan because nobody can be Jordan, but man, you watch him. He's fantastic. He's so good. And yeah, the injuries just were too much to overcome. But yes, I didn't realize he played for some of these teams. I forgot that he spent a little bit of time in Minneapolis and he's with Memphis. I mean, he was practically invisible here at the end of his career, but good 16 years and happy trails.
Zion Williamson means business, Danger. The Athletic sat down with the New Orleans Pelican star. Quote, I'm out for straight vengeance. Not against any particular person, just for myself. The 24-year-old Williamson has been doing twice daily workouts this offseason. The first one beginning at the crack of dawn. Has also improved his relationship with the Pelicans organization. This, believe it or not, is going to be year number 6 for Williamson in the NBA.
Maybe he's grown up a little bit.
Physically, I'm fine. Now it's just a matter of when I feel like Zion. I know the atmosphere I'd be in based off like the playoff experience. So now it's just a matter of when I feel like Zion. I don't know how else to say it. It just sucks. I love this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. This note, going back to Oakland, because I just saw this come across, because the field there is named after Ricky Henderson, right?
Mm.
He's there today.
He is.
Ricky Henderson. Now,
one of the all-time greats in third person.
Well, I think he's leaving us with an all-time great quote here. Ricky Henderson, what direction do you think he went in when asked, what do you feel about today?
He talked about himself. He had to have talked about himself in the third person. That's what Ricky Henderson does. To be the best Ricky Henderson can be, Ricky Henderson has to refer to Ricky Henderson in the third person at all times.
It's close, but it's going to be in a direction I'm sure you're going to appreciate. Ready? Ricky, what do you think today? Quote, I can't be sad. I have too much money. I did too much here. All these great things here. I'm more happy than sad. Maybe later it'll hit you when it's all said and done. But honestly, today, I'm going to have fun. I can't be sad. I made a lot of money.
Yeah, I love this place. Why would I be sad? Leave that to the peasants that are here cheering this team on. I got mine. Wow. That's on brand. That's Ricky. Fantastic. And for Zion, hey, look, I need to see it. But if you're working out twice a day and you're getting in better shape for the season, you're able to stay healthy, I believe he can be a force. I'm not going to root for him. I cannot root for that guy. But if he's doing all of that and he's improved his relationship with the Pelicans, he's come to grips with the idea that this is his team. This is where he's at. This is where you're at. Make the most of it. Let's see. You go to Galveston if he loses again in the postseason.
Well, he stayed in New Orleans, but you got to win over that town too. Do you remember that it wasn't this past year, but a couple years ago? It's Mardi Gras, and I've never been to Mardi Gras.
I have.
Tell us, Mike Danger.
What do you want to know? I think I heard Rome way back in the day when, before he kind of like cleaned up his act. Rome used to call New Orleans a giant pile of vomit. That's how he described New Orleans.
Well, they did this float, and it was a spoof on Zion, who wasn't playing at the time, but who was known to be overweight at the time.
Yeah.
So it was just this big, old, fat Zion on this float with all this food around him.
What's the name of the hippo that's going viral right now that's everywhere? Do you know about that one?
No, I do not.
Somebody knows who I'm talking about. But when I see the hippo, I feel like that could be the float that you trot out for Fat Tuesday at Mardi Gras this year if you want to represent Zion. It's a little baby hippo that is everywhere on social media, and I forget the name of the hippo. But anyways, yes, if Zion's in shape, if Zion's growing up, and Zion can be the leader that team needs, we'll see. Maybe you don't go to Galveston after a first round bounce or a play-in round bounce in the postseason.
Tell them, Chuck, where do they win?
New Orleans is a fine city. I don't have a problem with New Orleans, but you're going there for a specific reason. And if you're not going there during Mardi Gras to party, you're going there because the food is amazing and you're going to the restaurants and you like the look of, the French Quarter and the history and everything that comes with it. There is a charm to it, but
I've heard, not just from you but from others, it smells.
It's dirty. I think it's dirty, and it's old, and there's a charm to that for sure. But as far as Mardi Gras goes, look, man, it was a fantastic party. I mean, like you'll see things in the streets that you don't need to ever see again. There are lots of things that I wish the goggles did nothing. There's not enough eye bleach in the world to see some of the things I saw during Mardi Gras in New Orleans. So I went once when I was young. I'm good. I don't need to go back. I don't need to relive that.
But I've got to tip my hat to Saints fans. The Saints' tough loss, against the Eagles week 1. To win in Dallas, and then the fans have their own parade around the perimeter.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to stop us there they've got the horns, the trombone, the big bass drum, everything.
Now, the flip side of that coin is Philadelphia did that to them. I mean, Philadelphia basically took over the French Quarter leading up to Sunday's game. I mean, there's plenty of video of just Eagles fans storming down the streets, taking over New Orleans in advance of their team getting the win on Sunday.
It's funny, like New Orleans, I'm sure, but like as far as NFL destination cities, at best, it's fourth.
What it's good for is the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good for the Super Bowl. That's the infrastructure that's built in and the tourism and everything. It's good for the Super Bowl. It's a great vibe for the Super Bowl, I'm sure. There's a reason why it keeps getting the Super Bowl over and over and over again. It's great for conventions. I've been there. That was why I was there. I wasn't there specifically to party. I was there because it coincided with a convention an industry convention that they were having at the same time. So it's good for all of that. But is it a vacation destination for me? No. Is it somewhere like if the Bills were playing or if the Bears were playing, we're like, no, probably not.
No.
Unless you're talking about the Super Bowl. Then yes, we're making plans. That's shots here on the Fan Rochester. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Last call if you want to join us, 866-4FAN before we close up shop. Have the last word at 866-4326.
Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, it is last call in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. You can have the final word at 866-4326. We'll tell you who's joining us tomorrow afternoon as we kick off your sports weekend as well. We appreciate you listening, however you may be doing so, or watching. If you're watching on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also on Twitch where we stream as well at The Fan Rochester. We go to John in Rochester for last call. What are you doing, you Spartan, you?
Hey, guys, I got to tell you, I'm really pumped up. We're 3-0, and you know what I predicted before the season? I predicted 14-3. So 11 more games, and I'm gold. But listen, Mitch Morse.
Go ahead.
Mitch Morse looked pretty good for Jacksonville. You know, I thought about him. Remember all the concussions he had?
Mm-hmm.
I just wondering he's still playing after many concussions. I think Tua could probably come back. What are your thoughts?
Oh, Tua is going to come
coming back.
Yeah, Tua is coming back. There's no doubt about it. John, I was just going to ask you, like 14-3, is this one of the three coming up Sunday night?
Well, we're going to win, no doubt about it.
All right. Thank you, John. Good. Thank you, John.
14-3, but really what I want to say is 17-0. They're not losing a game.
No. Like you imagine Masterstroke right now? Very excited.
Oh, this game has significance in the history of Masterstroke.
Oh.
Nobody.
This is where it ended.
This is where we put the ban on Masterstroke because nobody cares when you're right in the sports bar.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game, but I actually like the Bills in a low-scoring game, like 23-20. We've always figured out how to stop their offense, thankfully. Not completely, but we seem to have always had a decent time against Lamar Jackson. And they always seem to be a lot lower scoring than usual. I just have a feeling it's going to be lower scoring, and the Bills will be right around their spread with a 3-point win somewhere in there. But I like them in the low 20s, somewhere there.
It's possible, Masterstroke, but we're going to hold you accountable one way or the other. So you've got them winning something that they normally don't do, a close game against the Ravens. You say 23-20 on Sunday.
I do. That goal for their last 8 has got to end somewhere, and I think it ends this week.
Was that 2022?
Yeah, it was 2022. That's the one where the Bills bled down the clock at the end, kicked the field goal, got out of there. What was the 0 for 8? Was it going on the road and
It was
winning?
one-score games.
One-score games. That's it.
It was one-score games. They couldn't win one-score games. Close games always went to the opposing team. And Masterstroke came in here. We checked in with him. It was a similar time. It was the end of September in 2022. And they were dealing. We checked in with them because they were dealing with a hurricane.
Wow.
So 2 years later, we're dealing with the same thing. And Masterstroke was banned that day because he actually predicted the exact outcome, the exact score of the game, 23-20. Well, we have no use for you. We want you to come in here and be wildly inaccurate.
I feel like I should text him like, hey, what's your – because he's probably batting down the hatches down there right now in Florida, although it's not going to hit him head on. But
I think the people in Florida just like – they're so used to it that it's not even a big deal anymore.
It's like us in here comes the lake effect.
Yeah, they get their pool floaties and they just kind of like go down the street, visit their neighbors, just float down the street that's flooded in your pool floaty to get to where you need to go. Everything's flooded. It's fine. It's okay. There's only a little bit of sewage in this runoff water here from the storms. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah, that's a historic Masterstroke prediction there. He was actually right. We'll see tomorrow. We will talk more Bills. We will talk more Ravens. We will give our predictions for Sunday night. We will welcome in Andy Behrens.
Yeah.
Andy Behrens of Yahoo Fantasy to help set your Week 4 fantasy football lineup for the weekend. He joins us every Friday afternoon at 3:25. And then lights out, joining us at 4:25. We'll hear from former Bills linebacker, former NFL star of the Chargers, Sean Merriman is going to stop by the sports bar, make his inaugural visit, and tell us a little bit about what he thinks of this year's squad.
Yeah, he's got some thoughts on the Bills, so curious to hear what we can call him a former Buffalo Bill. Sean Merriman joins us.
For sure.
Yeah.
If you missed any of today's show, you can find it online wherever you get your podcasts. That includes our free our conversation. It's free to download. Odyssey app is where you can get it, really, and anywhere else. Search out the sports bar. If you missed Jim Riley from the 4 o'clock hour, if you missed Dan Fates, who joined us in our 3 o'clock hour, talk some Bills and Ravens with Fatesy, talk some MLB baseball with Riles. You can get those conversations wherever you get your pods. Just search out the Sports Bar. And our entire show will be up and available for you on demand as well for you to enjoy at your leisure. Make sure you're following us at The Fan Rochester on Elon's Twitter. That's X. And you'll always be updated on when new episodes of the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia drop, as they say. Enjoy your night. I'm going to go wallow in despair in my second place wooden spoon trophy, the chili cook-off. Drown my sorrows and watch the start of week 4 with the Cowboys traveling to the Meadowlands to take on the Giants tonight. I hope you enjoy your night as well. JR Sport Brief on the way next on The Fan Rochester. See ya.